Okay, hello there, and welcome to the Breakfast Club. We've got a few hosts coming for this show tonight, and to begin with, obviously, as you see on the floor, Nathan, Kazoom, and Rob, Dev Show. How you guys doing tonight?
Good. Good
Pretty
here.
good. How are you doing?
Yeah, I can't complain, but sometimes I still do. You know, like I feel guilty for feeling sorry for myself right now because so many people have it so much worse than me. You know what I mean? And I feel guilty for feeling like being bored just doesn't seem like enough to complain about considering what's going on in the world. You know what I mean? But being bored is actually the worst thing that's happening to me right now. So I feel really lucky.
Yeah, same here.
So I don't know if you guys saw the.
I've been drawing a lot. Been doing a lot of drawing.
Well, that's cool. You're a fucking good artist, man. Yeah, I got a lot of respect for that. I wish I could draw in the same way that I wish I could play a musical instrument. You know what I mean? We all have the ability to develop a talent if you practice. I mean, talent is the accumulation of practice and effort, right? So this my son will lecture me if I tell him if I say I can't play a musical instrument or if I can't draw. He'll give me a half-hour long lecture, you know, and tell me why that's so. And he's right. That's the thing. You know what I mean? He's absolutely right. Yeah. It's I know plenty of musicians who say the same thing, you know, just practice, you know, just do it. Do you play a musical instrument, Rob?
I don't, but my oldest is a musician. He plays just about everything. So.
How old is he now? Like 19 or 20, something like that?
25.
Wow.
Yeah, he's 25. He's had a couple of albums out.
Shut the front door. He's had a couple of albums out.
He's had a couple of albums out on self-released on Spotify. They're available on Amazon. So yeah,
you must be super proud, man. That's really cool.
Oh, extremely. And I mean, it's all him. Like it's the drums, guitar, everything, vocals. It's 100% him. He's goes under the name what was it, babe? Yeah, Anaklusmos. It's Greek, means riptide. So yeah, that's
okay. And how that's really interesting. So how did he get into like that name in particular? You don't just like wake up one morning and go, I know, I'm going to name my after a Greek riptide.
He likes reading about the Greek gods and a lot of novels. I think the author's name right now is a pretty famous author. It does a lot of stories about the Greek gods. So he's really into that.
Oh, so. Homer.
No, more like they're more like modern stories about the Greek gods.
Oh, right, okay.
Percy Jackson, I think.
Okay, don't think I'm familiar with that one.
But yeah,
Josh in the bottom corner because Josh didn't make it last week. Oh, he's leaving. He's not here yet. Okay. Yeah, I invited Josh last week, or so I thought. And then it turned out that I actually invited the wrong Josh on my friends list, and it was a different Josh entirely. So I'm glad he's here this week. Because I actually invited. It was another guest host on the Breakfast Club, but it was just like I think the other Josh I invited had only done like one Breakfast Club video ever. So yeah.
Was it Joshua Frost?
It was Green Ghost 242.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the other Josh.
I've seen him on YouTube for a long time. I don't even know if he's still on Twitter because it was on Twitter that I sent him the invitation. So anyway, I don't know if you guys saw the thumbnail for the video that we're on now. But if you didn't, I'll just describe it to you because it's quite easy to describe. It's a picture of a grave, right, with a pile of dirt next to it, and it said the caption says "Trump care, everyone will be covered." Right. And because it just seems to me
no truer words.
The thing is, I can't help but get the feeling. See, to me, Nathan, it's like this. If you've got two choices here, either they're doing it on purpose or they're too stupid to know what to do. Which of those do you think makes me feel worse? Because they both make me feel pretty bad. You know, and which one is,
I think there's like,
what I don't understand, hang on, let me finish my point. What I don't understand is why people who like think, oh, you know, they're not evil, they're just inept. Oh, is that supposed to make you feel better? That they don't know what the hell they're doing? Are we supposed to be reassured by that? just.
Well, I mean, it's the difference between stupidity and being evil.
Well, I agree. There's definitely a difference. I can't deny that. But the point is there a difference? You know, I mean, when your actions directly cause suffering, at what point does that become evil? And that's not just about the pandemic. That's a general philosophical point. You know, at what point does evil occur? When does bad become evil? It's an open question.
Intentions
to it
has to do with intentions.
I agree. Intention plays a huge part in it. Absolutely, but it's also about results. You know, if you intend to kill a million people, but you don't, then it doesn't matter what your intentions was. But if you don't intend to kill anybody, but you kill a million people, it doesn't matter it doesn't matter that you didn't mean to. It doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, but is it still evil though at that point? Is it really evil, or is it just?
That's a perfectly open question. I don't know the answer. I'm not sure anybody does, to be
I
honest.
mean, one hope would be that with incompetence you can improve. With evil, you can't really improve. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, welcome.
Yeah, thank you for having me and for the link. And Michael talked me into coming. But yeah, you would hope that somebody who's incompetent could improve, whereas somebody who's evil has no intention on ever improving.
I agree with that.
Yep.
Hi, Michael.
Hey, just got off work, changed channels, and now I'm here.
All right, nice one.
Good to see you. And hi, Phoenix Writer, and hi, Deep Ashtray. Oh, sorry, I was just saying hi to the people that are in the chat.
That's all right. No, I was just saying I can't help but infer malice from the way things are going at the moment. You know what I mean? And it's not that much better in this country either. I mean, the government's completely cocked this thing up here. I'm really lucky in the sense that my job is one of the few jobs in the country that the government actually took care of. You know, I mean, I'm okay, whereas lots of people aren't okay, and I feel really sorry for those people. You know, and I try to think of, what steps are we going to take to get out of this situation? I mean, I just watched that movie, Contagion, the other day. And in that movie, they develop a vaccine, and everybody who gets vaccinated has to have a wristband on it. And I wonder if we're going to have that where we have, like, if you get tested for COVID before we can open the economy back up, do you have to test everyone before they go out to work and say, we're only letting the people we know are well go out to work? And how are you going to administer that?
Well, I mean, there's the new tests that see if people have the antibodies for it.
Right. Well, that's a good test, right? That's an important thing to know. But what I want to know is, how are they going to open up the economy? Because, I mean, like, Donald Trump seems to think that he has the authority to just snap his fingers and open it up, which obviously he doesn't have that authority. But, I mean, long story short, the economy will only open up when people personally feel confident enough to go out and open it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it almost doesn't matter what we're told to do. If you still feel
that's what
go out there, you're not going to go.
I think that's what I've heard Bill Gates or a few people want some kind of thing that states that you've been vaccinated against all these, against the virus, and then you can go and do certain things. But again, we don't even know when that vaccine is going to happen. And on top of that, it's just, we could have gotten ahead of this thing if we had moved quicker. And that's, for me, is where, going back to your original question, that's for me where it's still a mixture in my mind of both incompetence and malice. I think we knew this thing was coming. To pretend like somehow the president called it a hoax. It's like do you really think that the Democrats were like setting up, like concocting viruses and say, hey, let's throw this thing out here? I mean, what would make you think that? It was just this whole thing of inactivity, which part of me wants to say, I think that President Trump wants to use this has a purpose for it, possibly to interfere with the election. I don't really exactly know, But there is a part of me that believes he's doing this out of malice, and then there's another part of me that believes that he's just not bright, which we know that. But there's that part of me that he just will not relent in the fact of maybe he doesn't know everything. I've never met a person or seen a person, and I'll say that before Donald Trump ran for president, before all this stuff that we knew about Donald Trump, I was actually kind of a fan of Donald Trump because he was this business guy, and that's, as a kid, that's something I knew was I wanted to be a businessman. I wanted to own specifically a comic book and filmmaking business specifically, and this was the only guy I knew who was famous for being a business person.
Sure.
And
I think
all of that turned out to be bullcrap.
for
So it's all
for most people in the New York
Mhm.
City area. You live like the entire state of New Jersey is basically just it's like another borough of the city of New York. So anybody who lives in the New York City area or New Jersey, we've known since the 80s that Donald Trump was completely full of shit.
Right.
We've known that he was a failure. We've known that nothing he says can ever be trusted. It's always been that way. And I mean, it's during the 2016 election, people from the New York area were screaming, "Don't elect this guy," because
Right.
I mean, we know him. We're aware of his failures. We're aware of his bravado and how he thinks he's infallible. None of this is news to us. So yeah, it's really sad. It's really sad when we're forced to watch as he does everything we knew he would do. When he says
Right.
the things that are to us aren't surprising. It's sad. It is really, really just sad.
He has no humility.
I still
and
think-
then there's the element of they had a private conference where they talked about the virus, and then some of the people that were at the conference sold off a bunch of stocks
Right.
too. There's that situation with this too. So I mean, I'm with Nathan. I think it's a mixture of both evil and stupidity.
Well, I want to
and
make a
also
point about
Def
what
Show was
Nathan
saying.
said as well, because when you said you don't know about whether the pandemic response is evil. I mean, I'm not sure if you've seen this on the news, but basically the post office is screaming that the pandemic is going to drive them out of business. And as you must be aware, Trump is saying he doesn't want to allow postal voting come in November, and he's going to let the postal service fail right in front of our faces, friends. He's going to let this happen right in fucking front of us. And what are we going to do about it? We can't even march because there's a fucking pandemic on.
Vote by mail would
Coincidence?
save the postal service. Vote by mail would save the postal service.
Right.
So he has zero motivation to do
Well,
anything about it.
they're saying they need $75 billion in the next stimulus because they were deliberately left out of the previous stimulus. They tried to get some slush money from the previous stimulus, and they were denied from that stimulus. Then, and because of the things Trump has been saying, that he does not want them to have a functional postal service because he wants to be able to have the votes to be electronically manipulatable to the highest possible degree.
Right.
That's my opinion.
And there's a lot of
I'm
people.
gonna let Sue on for a second.
Okay. Now, hey,
Whoopsie, I goofed.
you
Hang
got
on.
rid of everybody. A couple of weeks ago, I posted on Facebook that Pete and I have had a long-running debate about whether or not Trump was stupid or evil.
Right.
I think we've pretty much determined that it's both and that the difference doesn't matter. Like deciding if he's more inept or more evil becomes pointless because it's kind of like a difference without it, or a distinction rather, without a difference.
Right.
So
Yay, I got myself working. Hi, guys.
Hey,
Hi.
good to see
Hey,
you.
how's it going?
hanging in there. Boy, do I have a story to tell you. Oh boy, because last week when I was on, I actually wasn't. I got some kind of sinus throaty infection thing. I don't know what. I'm feeling better than I've had been for a while. But what's happening here in Michigan, I actually finally had a chance to go out for a little bit, and I've been kind of playing the mask, no mask game, because we do have a bit of a mandate here about wearing masks now, and I don't know how it is for you guys. And it's interesting. It was like half and half. Some people were, some people weren't. It really depended. What's it like in your states?
Yep. Same
I
thing. I went out yesterday. I had a mask. And I had gloves.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people didn't, and a lot of people did. So there are people who are doing it, and other people who aren't. So
I went to a high-end butcher shop, which I know is not essential, but it's the place where you would not expect everyone to be wearing a mask. Everyone was wearing a mask there. I was surprised.
That would make sense. That would make sense for a place like that. I could see that.
Yeah.
Not just the workers, the people who shop there. Everyone was wearing a mask.
Good. Very good.
Up until yesterday, it was about 50-50 here in New Jersey. But yesterday, a lot of businesses now won't let you in or service you if you're not wearing a mask.
Sorry, Nathan, were you about to ask something?
hold on just a second, guys, because you're breaking up. And
Okay,
I think that's better. No, I was just gonna say how's the restaurants and businesses are because here a lot of the restaurants are either closed or they have inventive ways of actually getting food to you, like what's the burrito place? Chipotle.
Yeah.
Chipotle. Yeah, they're open, but you can't go in. They have to come to the door, write your order down, and then they go back and make it and bring it to you. I think not Baskin. Well, I guess it's still Baskin Robbins too. Dunkin' Donuts. Dunkin' Donuts. They're doing kind of the same thing. 7-Eleven. They're only letting one or two people in at a time. So it's very interesting when you go on the streets and there's like almost nobody there. It's very different. It's very different. Target. I had to go to Target, which is another thing I have to kind of stop doing because Target is high as hell. But I went to Target and I think they have a nice setup where people are you can only go in through one door and the people are 6 feet apart at the register and everything. So they have it set up. They're getting toilet tissue and the antibacterial soap and stuff like that. They have that stuff again now. So things are I can't say anywhere near normal, but there's at least things coming back. You can get the stuff that you need. So
I'll tell you what, at the local Walgreens here, one thing that I saw that was swiped were vitamin C was swiped. A lot of the cleaning products are still swiped. Toilet paper is still swiped. I think, but I know the vitamin C and zinc has been the big one now over here, which has been interesting.
They had vitamin C, and what's the stuff? The stuff the powder, they had airborne vitamin C and the emergency. They had that. Yeah, they had that stuff.
Oh yeah, that was the other stuff that was gone too at my local Walgreens.
They had it at Target. They had like a lot of it. They had a lot of that, a lot of antibacterial soap. They had hand sanitizer in, I think, for just like a little bit of time. That I think people are getting wise about the toilet paper. They're like, we don't need this like that. But all the other stuff, hand sanitizer and Lysol, that stuff's gone. Even like the Lysol in the big spray bottle, that's gone.
Rubbing alcohol, bleach,
any of that kind of stuff. Yes, rubbing alcohol, can't get that. like especially like those big bottles that they used to sell. That's gone. Bleach. I know what I did see some bleach, but I didn't get any. I probably should have. But all that stuff is. I do see that they're selling the that pledge. I think pledge is probably going to get a lot of people are going to buy pledge now because the pledge is in the place where the Lysol was. I think people are just going to grab that and hope they can work something out with that.
Jeez.
I noticed that. I'm like that's not Lysol, but so and shelves are like I took a picture on Instagram. Like you can see like the shelves are just like and you know that stuff's barren. I didn't get a pic of that, but those shelves were barren too. Except there's certain that are left, and anything with like antibacterial on it. That's even though this isn't a bacteria, but all that kind of stuff is gone. Especially if it's like antibacterial soap. A lot of that was gone too, but they did have a nice amount. And the soft soap, they have the soft soap back in stock too. So, you know, it's a nice amount of stuff that's helpful because they say even if you don't have like an antibacterial soap, just the washing of your hands, the soap itself will deactivate the virus. So,
yeah, because I guess each molecule of it or whatever is oil. It's based on oil, and when you do something that breaks apart the oil, it breaks the anyway. Sorry.
The virus is membrane, right?
Yeah.
Right. The soap will disrupt it and cause it basically to explode. So yeah, all of the guts of the virus comes out. So that's a fun thought.
I got the that Palmolive. I got the other stuff that we used to use. That's all gone too. Antibacterial dishwashing detergent. That's all gone too. So
what's odd is I don't even know if antibacterial
crazy
properties really help the help get rid of the virus any more than the regular soaps.
No.
Yeah, I didn't think it did because I remember hearing a lot of stuff on it. I didn't think so.
Well, that's like all those people who think an antibiotic is going to somehow make people better. And it's like, yeah, I guess you don't know what antibiotic means.
Yeah.
You know.
I think a lot of people.
Go ahead.
Wait, no, say it again. I didn't.
No, I was just saying I've had a couple of exchanges today with people who are like, you know, touting the Trump drug, the hydrochloroquine, and it's an antibiotic for malaria. And one guy was just like, "It's FDA approved." I'm like, "Yeah, but so is meat. I mean, hamburger is FDA approved too."
Just because it's FDA, just because it's FDA approved doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean anything. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that shouldn't be FDA approved that's FDA approved.
Right. McDonald's isn't a very good treatment. It's FDA approved.
Right, exactly.
It's kind of like it's people saying Trump said it, I believe it, that settles it, like people do with the Bible.
Oh God, yes. Oh.
Yeah, because facts aren't real. Yeah.
Yeah, that with 2016 ushered in the facts aren't real decade. It's like you can't prove anything to anybody nowadays because facts aren't a thing. Like you can have your facts, and then this other person can have their alternative facts. So it really doesn't mean anything.
Those of us here in the
it's like how do you even get information through if you can't prove, you know?
Yeah. No, those of us in the great debate community, I mean, this is nothing new to us. I mean, we've been dealing with this for years online. People, I don't care what the evidence is. I don't care what the facts are. I don't care what the science says. My book says it's true. It's the same thing. They just substitute Trump for their book. The same exact argument. It's the same exact line of thinking. It's identical. Still frustrating though.
Yeah, it's probably not. I think about it in that way. for a while. It was, for a while it was on the far left community. It was the facts don't mean anything, and then the far right community, they're saying the same thing. It doesn't mean anything. If Trump says this, it must be true. I have a friend who I didn't know she was like such a big Trump supporter, but she was and I probably shouldn't say it's because people probably think it's one person, but it's not that person. It's another person that I know who's a really big Trump supporter, and she's been pushing like a lot of conspiracy theories and misinformation. And I'm kind of like, you might want to, but I guess if her friends are also Trump supporters, I guess, but because I responded to some of the stuff and I was like, this isn't true, right? This is not what you're saying is not a thing. It's not true.
It's like
I haven't seen her. It's kind of like, how you get those posts on Facebook and it's like the people, like if you don't fact check the post, it's just there to make you mad or to make you believe something. And if you don't fact check, you'll go off in a completely different direction. It's that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That she's posting.
And then these people are, if you try to show them facts, they'll say, oh, that's fake news. That whole fake news thing. If everything's fake news, if it disagrees with Trump on anything.
And they act like and even like things that the amount of people who would have to get together to create everything that's happening now. Well, I guess with social media and stuff, there can be all kinds of confusion, but there's some things that people are putting out there that just with a little bit of research, you can find out isn't true. And they're not even trying to find out if it's true or not. They don't really care. They're just saying, well, this is what's happening. And there's some stuff that I've seen posted. The idea behind it makes sense, but the thing they're saying doesn't. It loses its credence after you actually read the whole thing. And you're like, well, this doesn't work like that. And then there's other things I've seen where I'm like, well, for a fact that didn't happen that way. So I don't know. It's again going back to malice. And there's also this idea of being intentionally ignorant. So you can throw that into the bunch, into the pack as well. It's that evil when this is the thing that's happening, but you don't want to learn about it because you don't want to be wrong about it. I mean, at what point do we have to shake people up and say, hey, you know what? You're being an asshole right now. This is not the time for it. We need some real about what's going on. And the stuff that even people who are like friends of mine who weren't pushing, they weren't necessarily pushing pro-Trump stuff, but they were still pushing misinformation. I was like, they always see that stuff and they're like, spread this around. I'm like, I'm not spreading this. This is misinformation. This is bad. No, this is wrong. And you kind of don't get that response back because they didn't expect that. So there's a lot of that happening right now. It's a lot. It is happening on Instagram now, and like in people's Instagram stories, because they don't put it on their regular timeline. They put it in their stories, so it's like gone the next day. So
right. I wanted to ask you guys, because I'm obviously pretty far removed from y'all in terms of my exposure to what's going on the ground in America. And it is really hard for me to comprehend what's happening from all the way over here, even with everything I know from what I absorb off here, plus the years that I did live there. But what I really want to know, I mean, I never thought I'd live to see the day when Americans put their faith in a man instead of the institution the man is supposed to be upholding. I never thought I'd live to see that day. I really, really never thought that Americans would idolize a man
It's a backlash to Obama.
Well, it was
Right.
No,
I don't know.
I'm serious.
That's
I mean,
literally all it is.
there are large groups of people in this country that have really deep-seated racial hatred that don't know they have it. Like they're completely unaware that they have it. They have biases that they're completely blind to, and they were so angry while Obama was president, and they kept saying this man is destroying everything. I'm not a racist. I've got no problem with black people. He's just a bad president. He's destroying everything, and what we see with Trump is like a whiplash.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Yeah.
They came out and they supported Trump so much. And now they're in a position where they can't back away from that support because they've tanked so badly that they are afraid of how they will look if they speak out against him. So now it's like he's the second coming.
It is like he's the second coming. I mean, he referred to himself. He said he was joking, but he referred to himself as the chosen one, like on 3 separate occasions that I'm aware of. I can't believe that they let him get away with that. I mean, the fact that the Christians aren't jumping up and down and calling heresy is really alarming to me because that means they're buying into it. And that how much of this is dominionist, like end of the world? These guys think that this is the time, and they're putting their faith in him, even though obviously they don't want the world to end, but they think it's the best possible outcome because of their stupid,
It absolutely.
Even the My Pillow,
absolutely.
Even that My Pillow guy has said, I forgot what his name is, but even he was trying to claim that, oh no, Trump was chosen by God.
You know what? I actually love the fact you don't know his name. Thank you. I don't know his name either.
The My Pillow guy.
Yeah, I'm going to put Michael back on.
I could not believe the amount of support that Donald Trump has, especially with the whole the fact that he has that he has some property that's like 666, so like it's like a 666 property or something. It's like all the stuff that connects with Trump. Anybody who reads the Bible, it's like all these people are always saying about this one's the Antichrist, this one's the Antichrist. Trump comes along, silence. I'm like, no, wait a minute. If anybody's the guy, it's like,
Jared Kushner's family owns it, like 666, and so
look at some of my stories and stuff. Wait, what was that he owns?
Jared Kushner owns that building. His family owns that. I think they got it from Trump, but Jared Kushner's family owns that building. It's in Soho. I can't remember the name of the road, but it's 666. Yeah.
You're right. If that doesn't immediately stand out, this guy saying I'm like, no, that's, and I guess he for whatever reason, I think a lot of Christians really believe that Republicans are good no matter what, and Democrats are bad no matter what, and somehow they're just going to believe, hey, you know what? It doesn't matter because this is the guy that God supposedly chose.
Abortion.
So we're going to follow the guy. But no one but him actually said he was chosen. God never said this guy was chosen. They just decided that. But there's nothing he does.
It's about abortion.
Abortion.
Hmm?
It's about abortion.
Say again.
It's about abortion.
Yeah, but that's just, well, yeah. Now that I think about it, because that's the one thing that they can.
I've seen it about a dozen times today alone. Anytime somebody criticizes Trump and his response to COVID, and they talk about how many people have died so far, the immediate response from the Christian Republicans is how many babies have Democrats killed in the same amount of time. It goes back to abortion. So when Trump said during the campaign in 2016 that he believed that something should be done to the mothers legally for seeking an abortion, that's it. The Christian right wing, they all had simultaneous orgasms. I mean, this is what they want. They're looking for someone who's willing to stone women in the streets. That's what they want. So yeah, I mean, it's about abortion.
And I don't, and even even that I don't, and even that I don't understand, because that became, I think that's an issue that became like, I think that's an issue that started holding more weight than it probably should. Well, obviously than it should, where there are a lot of people that will literally vote a candidate for that, the single issue voters and things like that. But I would still say, to be so blind that you say this one issue will make me do something and ignore everything else, even when that thing where you basically are having people who are saying, I would choose Trump over Jesus. And it's like, I think you're reading that Bible wrong. I don't think that's supposed to go that way. But there are people. I know there was a guy that wrote an article in Christianity Today about Donald Trump, and people were like, "We're not reading your magazine anymore." So really, there's this idea if you go again, and I know people too who are big Christians who are into Trump. And you kind of point out, hey, this guy is not anywhere near even what the Republican Party claims to be about. Somehow it's, and that's one thing I can say about Donald Trump. He definitely, the whole family values thing, they can't argue that anymore, because this guy he's definitely not that guy. So I think we got to the point where the Republican Party's literally just kind of said, this is what we're really about, and this is what we'll be okay with.
Yeah,
so
well,
he kind of exposed the Republican Party.
He's looking at a 96% approval rating among Republicans. And I mean, he keeps, tweeting that, and he keeps talking about that and bragging about that. And it's kind of frightening. But at the same time, it's like, so what? You have a majority of the minority. As that and $1.50 will get you on. Wait, will $1.50 even get you on the bus anymore? I don't even know.
I have to tell you, I got to say about that 96% approval rating amongst Republicans. I've looked for that. You can't find that statistic written down. Donald Trump says it. You can't find it.
I should fact check it. I should fact check.
I don't think it's quite 96.
No.
I think it's 80 something.
But even if it
try to find it, kids. Try to find it. I can't find it. I can't find anything that says that. That's an actual poll. I find reports of him saying it, but I can't find reports of an actual poll where they've done research finding that number.
But even if it's right, even if it's 100%, that's still the minority.
Well, I agree with that too. You know what I mean? When only like
this number.
Yeah. 'Cause, 110 million people don't vote, so the biggest.
But I would
voters.
I would like to see that poll too, though, because I do know that Trump will throw numbers and like, well, where exactly did you get that from, and whose poll was it? Because different people's polls will say different things, and they're going to have questions formatted in a way that will get a certain kind of response. I mean, like they do stuff like that with polls. So I'd like to see those two. I'd like to see those numbers, because Donald Trump is still the guy who said he had the biggest inauguration ever, and everything's the biggest and best with him, whether it's true or not. So I'd like to see some proof of that myself. How'd you say that? So
while Dev's looking that up, I did have a question for Got That Funk. So you said that you're surprised that Americans are like, you didn't think there would be a time that they worship a man more than they worship the institutions. But I mean, do you not think that Ronald Reagan, maybe it didn't happen until he was out of the presidency, but he seems to be as revered as anybody?
I was an 18-year-old man, and I cast my very first vote for president ever for Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan had been the governor of California previously. At the time of the election, I personally was really pissed off at Jimmy Carter at the time because of the Iran hostage situation. I didn't know then what I know now about it, but at the time I was really pissed off about it. So I was a Reagan supporter in 1980, right? But I never fell into the cult of personality, and I never really bought into the whole gospel of prosperity that they were preaching in the 80s, because I know there's more than one America. There's always been more than one America. That's always been true. Probably always going to be true. So, you know, I'm not stupid, basically, because I know that Hollywood isn't reality, right? And what Reagan managed to do, and is, in my experience in my adult life anyway, unique amongst Republican presidents, is he had Hollywood on his side in a way that Republican presidents don't normally get, right? You can think of a lot of movies. Kate last week, she mentioned Red Dawn, for example. That's a really good example. Top Gun that she mentioned as well. That's another good example. I could list a whole bunch of them off where, and it's not just like militaristic ones either, like The Secret of My Success with Michael J. Fox. You know, it's all about being really ambitious. He comes from dirt to you know, manipulating a company in a whole stock buyback situation, you know. So, like, you know, it's really sort of stellar success story. You know, the 80s was a completely different time.
Yeah,
And
the early 80s, mid 80s was a
from
real
the culture that he was in.
Yeah. Real gung-ho America time.
Definitely. And like I love the 80s, don't get me wrong, and I prospered probably as well or as nearly as the best of my life whilst I was in my 20s during the 80s.
But looking back at like pop culture of the time, you have to admit it's slightly embarrassing. No,
I don't think so. In fact, Rob, I'm sorry, and I'm pretty sure Kazoom will back me up on this point. But like, I was one of those pretty boys, Rob. I had a different haircut every 6 to 8 weeks. I wore loud, ostentatious clothes all the time. I had hot rods. I dated the sexiest chicks I could get my hands on.
You were the guy wearing the Cavaricis?
I was all about it, man. I was all about it. I had some crazy ass hairstyles, especially, right? And I wore some pretty brash clothes, I've got to say. And you know what? I was fucking fantastic. It was fantastic. We were at the top. We were riding the fucking universe. It was great. Yeah. And you can't, because you're too mature to wear that now. I've got a fucking sequin jacket right over there. You know what I mean? I've got a fucking velvet jacket right there. I got a fluffy jacket right there. You know what I mean?
I had paintings on the back of my denim jackets at the time. Paintings that I did. I still have the jackets since the 80s.
Yeah.
They're hanging in the closet over here. I'm like,
we might have to do some show and tell on that. But I just am, so in Western culture, it does seem like historically a lot we've worshipped as a culture, like people, like men who we put up to hero status, or we hate them, we villainize them, but we make them more than human. So it doesn't surprise me that it's happening again with Trump.
Well, a cult of personality is always possible. People are really susceptible to that kind of thing. But I actually, honestly, I'm sorry. Maybe I gave my fellow man too much credit, but I thought we were smarter than that. I really did. And it really does go to the point where George Carlin said 20 years ago about how there's been a deliberate attempt to dumb the population down. And I don't mean to talk down my brothers and sisters, because we're all, you know, perfectly worthy human beings with a mind of our own. But at the same time, I mean, the fact I can almost forgive anybody for voting for Trump in 2016 because of an untested quality, right? Nobody really knew what to expect. So people basically took a leap of faith. And that's a really important choice of words. But in my opinion, anybody who still supports him after everything that's happened, after everything that he's done, after all the lies he's told, after all the people who are dying, if someone still supports him now, I have a really hard time overlooking that as not a major character flaw. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Two things.
Well,
I found that those numbers, by the way, is number one. And I'll get to that in a second. Number two is I can forgive anybody outside of the New York area for voting for him the first time. But if you live in the New York area and you supported Trump,
right,
there's something very, very wrong with you, because like I said earlier, we all knew here. We all knew. I mean, he was a common fixture on local news, on local television. He was on TV all the time, and the lies and the bullshit and the way he speaks now, he was always like that. Always. Right. And it was never hidden. He was on like I said, on the New York news channels almost daily.
Trump's great gift as a what's the word I'm looking for? shyster, I suppose. Trump's great gift as a cheater is that he does it right in front of your face and dares you
Yeah.
to
Secret.
on it.
It can't
That's
be
his
wrong if
whole
I'm doing
MO.
it. Right.
That's his
You
whole
can't be
MO.
wrong if I'm doing it in front of you.
Well, and
And then he'll
then
do
he
it and
totally
tell you that he
gaslights you and
didn't
goes,
do
"What
it."
do you mean this is wrong? I've just done it right now, and no one else is saying it's wrong. My kids get away with that."
A Pew Research Center poll of Republicans of the GOP says that 96% feel hopeful and 74% are proud of their presidential pick.
Wow.
So it's not really 96% approval. It's
Right.
96% feel hopeful.
But it was an actual
I'm
poll, though,
teasing
right? He didn't just pick that number out of the air. That's an actual poll. Yeah.
And when's the date?
Research.
What's the date on
Okay.
Oh, never mind. It's old.
Right.
that? Okay.
Pulling old info. It's old, but the numbers match what he's saying. So it's old info.
Yeah.
It's actually a few years old. It's old.
That's
I think enough
that's-
things have changed
that's
with
a Trump
impeachment and
move.
everything else. You know.
I didn't even look at the date. It's old.
Has there ever been a time when Hollywood has hated a president as much as they hate Trump?
Almost. George Bush. George
Okay.
W. Bush.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, he was pretty hated. Well, I don't know if he was hated
But
as much
not
as much as Trump, though. Man.
He got both, though. He had like
No,
you know,
the hate-
he had both.
The hate wasn't as visceral.
Right.
Yeah.
The hate wasn't as visceral. The thing about Bush was you could literally see that he was like, the thing about Bush was that he was a war president, even though you could question whether he should have been, but he was a war president. So he kind of got to slide by because nobody wanted to talk smack on the president while we were in a war. But Hollywood didn't hate, I don't think they hated him as viscerally as they do Donald Trump, to the point where they were like, Hollywood was literally saying, don't vote for this. Like they were doing commercials saying, don't vote for him. And I had never seen that before. They would always just tell you to vote, and you probably got an idea that they would want you to vote differently, but never had I seen Hollywood actually say, and I think to the detriment, probably, I think there's a lot of people who voted voted for Trump just to kind of piss off, what they perceive to be that kind of far left establishment, I guess, especially in the entertainment industry where everything was headed in the far left, or my left over here, but of the far left direction.
There is no far left.
I think
there is no far left in the U.S. There is no far left in the U.S.
Hmm?
The U.S. doesn't have. No, it really doesn't. It really doesn't. No.
I would disagree on that.
Yeah, no,
I
it
would
just doesn't.
disagree.
It just doesn't. I mean, even Bernie Sanders.
I don't think.
Like even Bernie Sanders is a centrist pretty much anywhere else in the world. So I mean, there is no far left. The U.S. doesn't have a far left.
As far as politicians, as actual politicians, but there are people, individuals. There's
always
and you look at some of the things.
We've got radical socialists in this country, but I mean, they don't have any power to do anything or any kind of. They're just individuals. I'm like, who cares? But anything with any kind of movement.
Highly. As a matter of fact, in the entertainment industry, especially. Well, no, they do it. It's different. Where like, okay, like I'm in comic books right now, and the whole comic book industry is falling apart, and part of it is because of far left influence. It's not the whole thing, but literally, there came a point where the writers and the editors and things, they got to a point where they were more interested in things like, okay, we need to show that there's every race and every shapes and we don't need to do things that will sell a comic book. We need to, we need to make sure everybody is, I'm trying to think of what the word
intersectional
is used.
Intersectional.
They like to. I don't want to say diversity because they like to throw that word around a lot too. But basically, they want to make sure that everybody is You see different body types and you see different races and things like that.
Every demographic has
they want to make sure
representation, but that's not far left. But that's not far left.
Well, no, but listen with how they do it though. It's not the ideal isn't far left, but the idea that is more important than your business making money. You can do all those things and do it well, but it's not done well. I mean, we're talking everything from comic books to movies. That's not
the fault of a political agenda. That's the fault of the quality of the people making the product. I mean, you said yourself, you could do all that stuff and have it done well. Like, if you can do all that stuff and do it well.
But they don't have any political power. The people that are doing that don't have any political power. They have power maybe in the comic book industry, but they don't have any power in a way that can affect everyday lives.
Right.
Well, this is true. That's true, but it's still affecting certain people because people have lost jobs. Whole industries are, at least with comic books, whole industries, that industry is gone now. Their comic books are not going to survive COVID. I mean, it may survive. Comic books are still going to be there, but it's not. The distributor itself, we don't even know if they're going to be open. There's a whole different thought process to the way your customer and how the customer and the person who's creating the product relates to each other. Now the person creating the product gets to tell you whether you're good enough to buy it. And they forget that people aren't obligated to buy your crap. Even in movies where you have Elizabeth Banks telling people they should have empathy and come see her film. I'm a black dude from the hood. I don't have empathy for Tom Cruise's rich ass. I go see his movies because they're fun. And I'm not going to see your movie out of empathy. And that's,
by your own logic, it's the people who are making the comics themselves that are putting themselves out of business. They're doing a bad job. It's not about a far left ideology or a political group yanking on the industry saying you need to show this or you need to show that. Like you said, you said it yourself. They can do it and they can do it well, but they choose not to. So since they're choosing to do it poorly, they kind of deserve to go under.
Well, some of it is also
true. That's 100% true. But the thing about it is the people who have gotten in there, they have this ideology, and what they do is they get into groups, they get into things that they see are that they can kind of take over, and then they bring those ideologies into it, and then at the end they bring it all down because they said if we can't have it our way, we're just gonna bring it all down. And
but with respect, in a free market, though, you're appealing to real people who have opinions, and if the product doesn't suit the people's opinions, you're kind of stuck.
Exactly, and that's kind of what's happening now because you have people creating their own stuff now, and they're kind of stepping in with new comic books and new characters, and it's independent stuff, and they're stepping in, kind of taking up the slack. That Marvel and DC stuff is always going to be there, but the money in the direct market specifically is just not. It's not going to be there. And you look at some of these big franchises that failed because of that same situation. We're talking everything from the Charlie's Angels stuff. Sure. What's the Birds of Prey movie? Stuff that people are doing.
Yeah, Harley Quinn.
It's ridiculous.
Birds of Prey was terrible.
What? I loved it. I thought six times.
It was. Yeah, I would watch it again because I love Harley Quinn. She's my spirit animal. But
I jumped back on the screen because I want to ask you guys a question related to what Nathan was just saying. Because with the COVID thing happening and the quarantine, and eventually, sooner or later, we're all going to have to go back to work and try to get back into this lifestyle where we're buying things, and but there's so much poverty about to happen that buying things is going to be really, really difficult. And I think one of the first things to suffer is going to be the arts. And I don't just mean comic books, although comic books are definitely a relevant example. I'm talking about video games. I'm talking about movies. I'm talking about music. I'm talking about live music, in particular, small bands playing around little gigs in restaurants and hotels and shit like that. You know what I mean? I mean, the creative arts are going to take such a massive hit because it's going to take, I mean, when you don't know how you're going to pay for food, buying music or going to see a band or a concert, you know, is an exceptional luxury.
Well, the way
where back in the Depression days, in the 30s especially, the movie industry would thrived back then, specifically because people wanted to have that tiny little indulgence in their life. Of course, it helped. Cost 5 cents.
The way things are looking right now, a lot of stuff is going to be really cheap. So that's going to help.
I hope.
Yeah. Like gas right now. The price of gas is plummeting. I mean, it's like falling like there's a rock tied to it. And I mean, that's good for the consumer. It's not good for the economy. So, you know, it's, you kind of have, when you see the prices falling, you kind of have mixed feelings. It's like, oh, wow. Oh, shit. You know, but other things are going to come down too. Prices of some stuff is going to go up. Toilet paper is going to be dirt cheap.
Yeah.
Toilet paper is going to be dirt cheap because everybody's got a closet full of it. Come on, you all
10
know
rolls for $1.
you all know you got it buried in the backyard. You know, but the prices of a lot of stuff is have to, because that's how the market works. You know, you can't afford to buy it; it's not going to sell. You got to drop the prices in order to move it. So there's going to be that. Yep. So some things are going to be better. There are some things that were supposed to be in the movies now or coming up that they're canceling altogether. Comic books, right? Black Widow. I was looking forward to the Black Widow movie. It's not coming out now. It's going to go directly to Disney Plus, from what I understand. So that's cool. I'm still going to see it, but I'm going to miss out on that you know, the movie
experience,
atmosphere, the theater environment, which is always cool. So there's no reason to go.
I saw that World War I movie that came out recently. What's it called? It's where the whole movie's like in one shot. What's that movie called?
Dunkirk. No,
not Dunkirk. The other one, the newer one.
Dropped in. What was that?
One movie. Anyway, and the whole it's like taken in
1917.
That's the one. Yeah, thank you. Anyway, I saw that movie. Pretty good movie, right? But in the previews to that movie, they advertised another movie that was supposed to come out this summer, and I wonder what's going to happen to it because this movie really needs to come out before the election, and it was quite obviously deliberately done. It's about this guy who basically defied the Nazis in the run-up to the Second World War and then during the World War, and it's like completely obviously allegorical to what's going on right now. And that movie really needs to be seen by a broad audience because the historical parallels to what's happening right now to what's happening back then are absolutely terrifying, and people don't seem to want to look at it. But I think if they show it to you like that on, you know, IMAX, you know, it has a chance of going in, you know?
I don't know. I think a lot of people are like really done with the here and now.
Done with
escapism. That's where everybody's going to be looking for, escapism.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's going to be a decrease in the amount that big stars get paid.
That would be a good thing. And football, basketball players and all that. Everybody needs to take some of the air out, man. We've created an economy that's more expensive than it has to be. It doesn't have to be this expensive, but everything's been so inflated over all this time. You could just pull it like 6 zeros out and then be fine. Just pull 6 zeros down. You know?
I mean, right now it's actually cheaper to make movies now. If you don't go heavy on the effects, it's cheaper to make movies now than it's ever been.
Wow.
But just when you think about how much equipment costs and such, you know, someone could piece together a movie with even like $10,000 or something. They could make a decent movie with that kind of budget.
Yeah, we have somebody in the room who does that.
What? That would be me.
Yeah.
You know, the biggest film I made, at least on YouTube, the one that everybody saw, I think that cost like $2,000, like for the whole thing. So, I mean, you can get cameras right now that do 4K RAW and you're paying like $2,000 for the camera. So, I mean, there's so much. You can make a movie for cheap. You can really make a movie for cheap, just like you were saying. It's not, I mean, I could do it. If I wanted to get up right now and make a movie, I could do so. I have a 4K camera. I have all the editing equipment. The thing about it is doing it, and then, of course, because actors are still going to want to get paid, their money if you're going to use big actors and things like, and obviously you can't. It's actually funny because my mom watches soap operas every day. I had this idea for doing taking each character every day and just doing one thing with that one character every day. It's really true because you think about in situations like this where you can't have a lot of people in the room together and stuff like that, how you would do something like that. Entertainment is going to, I think entertainment is going to change. I do think it's going to go down as far as the price because people are going to need to go down. And I also think that if they want to produce something right now, there's going to have to be a way to do it. There's certain kinds of movies that you can actually make right now. A lot of the kind of first person stuff, a lot of stuff with, like limited people in the film, stuff like that. It's things you could do to create that kind of entertainment, if people want to do that. But it can be done if people want to do it. So,
Nathan, I had a theory of mine that aligns with something that you were saying about people who voted for Trump. I actually do believe that there is a very small minority of his voters, but very, very consequential in the grand scheme of things, that were what I would call right now the shitlord vote, right?
Yeah.
So they were voting for Trump specifically so that on election day they might get the chance to see all of the liberals screaming. And for the last 3.5 years, they have been enjoying the hell out of this schadenfreude of this channel in particular, this stream right now. They are enjoying the hell out. They are drinking social justice warrior tears every day, and it has paid off for them. And it might not have been a large segment of his voters, but it was enough to put him over the top in certain areas, right? And YouTube as a platform helped cultivate that, right? And I'll name names as far as the channels. I think their comment section cesspools were responsible for this. I could go to the Sargon of Akkad and Bering and Stick Hexenhammer and Jordan Peterson and say, like, their demographic that they were catering to by showing videos of liberals who were, a little on the fringe and only attacking those really out there arguments like manspreading, only going after the things that were lulzy. They were cultivating this audience of people who just really wanted to see liberals crying. And that's why they
I would say that to a certain extent, I think another big problem with Trump was, and this is gonna be, I don't even know if this is gonna be controversial because I think a lot of people have said it already. The biggest problem with Trump, or the biggest boon for Trump, in my opinion, was the media. The same media that hates him needed him for views. Right now the media is pretty much a YouTube channel.
That's absolutely correct. Absolutely agree with you. I mean, well, think about it. Trump he did The Apprentice. Look what he did there, and the way he runs his White House is. And I've heard this said, and I've heard reports. That's exactly how he runs his White House and everything. It's like The Apprentice, and I've heard it say he wants people to go at it with each other, like you see. So if you are familiar with The Apprentice, guess what's going on in the White House right now?
Yeah, well, I mean, people from his side have reported that it's very cutthroat in there. There's not a cohesive team. It's like a gladiator fight.
And he constantly talks about ratings too.
Yep.
How much did he really have to spend on advertising? Everyone knew Trump. Everyone was seeing Trump. They played the debate like it was some kind of fight, like it was some kind of championship fight. I mean,
they treated it like it was a boxing match. They, here comes Trump to the left. I mean, that's it was true. And also, he got free advertising on a daily basis.
Consistently.
All he had to do was go on Fox News every day, talk a bunch of shit, and everybody else would start asking him to go on. He was on Morning Joe of all shows. Multiple times.
His whole strategy back then was kind of genius in an evil way. And this is why I can't help but think about malice, because what he would do is say things that were obviously inflammatory that the media had to address, like banning Muslims. You can't say that and then not report it. You can't run for president, say that and report it. So they have to report it, but it should have been reported as Trump is out. Look at what he said. He's out. But there was no question. They said, oh, should it be disqualifying? There ain't no should it be about it. You're writing off 1.5 million people. I mean, give me a break. It's not a choice. The sovereignty doesn't mean you put a gate on your country. It just blows my mind.
And I think that Hillary Clinton was also just a horrible candidate to run against. I mean, everything was bad from start to finish, and everybody was. Here's my take on that election. Everybody was doing underhanded, shady stuff, and the most underhanded won. And
I like that, Derek.
I mean, in that instance, I would literally say Bernie Sanders would have been the better candidate. He could have won. I believe he could have won against Trump. In no way, shape, or form, even when Hillary Clinton. Yeah, he could have done it. There's no way in hell I could see Hillary Clinton winning against Donald Trump. Well, like that whole. Nathan, I watched it. I'm like,
Nathan. To be fair, Hillary Clinton got 3 million more votes than Donald Trump. Donald Trump won by 77,000 carefully, strategically electoral college votes in 3 states, spread across 77,000.
But I do believe that
2 votes per precinct in 1 state. Think about that. That's a sliver of, right? So Trump being president, it wasn't a great even his electoral college victory.
Dev Show was going to say something.
But I think there were even people. There were people who wanted to vote for Bernie, and instead of voting because they couldn't get Bernie, they actually voted for Trump just to kind of punish the Democratic Party. There was so much weird stuff going on, and just so much bad feeling in that election that I mean, Trump was, he was just there at the right time for something really crazy to happen. And he was that really crazy thing that happened. It was like everything just fell in the right place for something, just something weird to happen.
I agree with what Stu was saying. I agree with what Stu was saying earlier, because I agree. I think the media has there's lots of reasons why Trump became president. You can't pin it on Hillary necessarily all by herself. You can't pin it on the media all by itself. You can't pin it on Bernie or anything. There's loads of things you can't pin it on all by itself. But the media, in my personal opinion, is the biggest player in the whole thing. It was estimated he got between $2 billion and $4 billion worth of free press. You can't compete with that. Nope. You can't. Nobody could compete with that. Even Michael Bloomberg didn't spend that much money, and he tried pretty hard. But
the thing about Hillary is she, from as far as qualifications go, she is one of the most qualified people to ever run for president of the United States, like ever. I mean, you can't get more qualified than her unless you've already been president yourself.
Right.
She's politically shrewd. She is a political mastermind. She was the brains behind Bill Clinton. The problem with Hillary is her last name. The Clintons, since 1992, have had a circus around them that has never gone away. It has never dissipated. It has never weakened. Everywhere they go and everything they do, there's a circus attached to it. And whether you like her or not, whether you trust her or not, whether you think she's great and can walk on water, or if you think that she's, the incarnate, no matter what you think of her, the undeniable fact is that the Clintons are in the middle of a media circus. And that was my biggest thing with her. There are a lot of people like, oh, corporates, and she's very center and she's a right winger. And I'd rather have that. I'd rather have that than Donald Trump. I was a Bernie guy. I really wanted Bernie, but I voted for Hillary because I didn't have a choice. But what turned me off to Hillary was the circus. I don't want that. Who wants a circus for 4 years?
If you actually compare Hillary's politics to Donald Trump, they're really not that different. Not super different. But I also think another thing about Hillary is, you're right. They're. Wait, say it again.
I said they're different enough.
Let me say it again. Yeah, they're different enough, and I think the way she would have handled. I don't think the way her politics work. I don't think in a million years she would have embarrassed the country the way Trump does. I'll give her that much. But I think that another big thing with Hillary is that I would say that there was kind of this thing where a lot of people felt that she was kind of the face of everything that people kind of didn't want. But at the same time, I don't know, there was like a lot of really, I guess it goes back to what you were saying, because she was, her name is Clinton. But I think there's this idea of, shadiness connected with her. But at the same time,
I've got my 2 cents, and I have to put it in there.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just have to put my 2 cents. I was literally just thinking about this last night, because, and this is probably really politically incorrect and maybe even a little bit crass to say, but like, I think there's 2 things. When Bill Clinton first ran for president in '92, there was already a significant amount of sort of animus towards Hillary Clinton. People didn't like her for whatever reason. I personally think it's because she was a smart woman. But
she was also, I hate to interrupt you because I know you really want to get your point in, but I mean, she said something in an interview that pissed off a lot of people, a lot of women.
Stand by your man thing, yeah.
What am I supposed to do? Stay home and bake cookies?
Right.
She pissed off at that point, right then and there, in 1992. She pissed off about 60% of the women in this country.
Right, I hear you. And this is the thing. Ever since they first ran for the presidency in '92, there was already a strong sort of undercurrent of I don't like Hillary Clinton, and this is where my opinion gets a bit convoluted and probably a little bit ugly. But I think when Bill Clinton got caught with a Monica Lewinsky thing, and Hillary Clinton had to humiliate herself in front of the whole world.
Yes.
I mean, how can you, as a proud woman, stand there, an intelligent, proud, successful woman, stand there and let your husband rub that in your fucking face? I think it just lost a lot of respect from people. I don't think that's a politically correct thing to say, but it's my opinion. I think a lot of people just, how could you do that? Well, how could you not leave that man after he humiliated you on that level? I mean, you're talking about the whole world. The only thing I think was comparable is when Princess Diana cheated on Prince Charles. I mean, that's like, you got the whole world watching and you do it anyway. I mean, that's pretty bold.
Very true.
Michael, we can't hear you.
Yeah, Michael, you're muted.
I wanted to add that Trump is still being a master of manipulating airspace, because he's turned the coronavirus briefings into his rallies.
Yes.
And he is reaching a lot of people. And at the same time, DevShell will say that they're hiding Biden and that he's nowhere to be seen during this crisis. But if I put on the filter on YouTube, Joe Biden interview, and I look down and see that he did the Tonight Show, CBS, ABC, CNN, the Today Show, MSNBC. I'm just scrolling down and reading like all the different interviews he's done in the past week.
in the
Right.
past week. In the past week, most of them done on the same day.
Okay,
But they do that. It's a junket. They do that.
but
It's a junket.
none
So
of those were seen by anyone.
yeah,
Trump using this coronavirus briefing
yes,
is getting 100-to-1
Yes.
exposure on Biden right now, and he's trying. He's just failing horribly. And Trump's tactic of using that press conference as the one great brass ring to grab for, as far as like a pulpit to speak from. He's
So
failing.
if Biden's people were smart, they would tell him he needs to get on camera standing next to Bernie Sanders, put his arm around Bernie, and say publicly, "We're together. He's not my running mate, but he's on my team, and we're going to do this together." That alone, at least momentarily, will drown out anything Trump says.
If Biden's people were smart, Biden would come up with his
I think that would
with
be
his
pretty
own
powerful.
coronavirus press briefing every day and interview a governor that's dealing with the issues
That
and
too.
come out with what they were doing to assure people that things are being done, and the press would pay attention.
I'm sorry. Deep Ashtray said 6 feet apart. So yes, he would put his arm around him from 6 feet apart.
Bernie's a tall
I
guy.
just wanted to let everybody know that
I-
I'm paying attention to the chat. I am paying attention. I don't know about anybody else. I'm paying attention to the chat. There were a couple of times I wanted to jump in and say something about something that was mentioned in the chat, but conversation kind of just keeps moving. But yeah, from 6 feet apart, he would say we're together.
The issue, I think that would be really cool to do. But the question is, will the press? Because another thing about the Trump thing is, like we said, Trump gets those views. So are the press going to say, let's go over and see what Biden is doing? And if they do, how long are they going to do it? Because they sure as hell aren't going to spend the amount of time on that they are with Trump. So, the question is, for those voters, people like myself, I'm going to look at that and go, oh, that's cool that that's going on. But for the Trump voter and a lot of other people, the press is going to say, well, that's kind of interesting, but Trump is doing his thing. We need to be, there.
It'll depend.
And that's the thing that Trump has always been good at.
I'll tell you what it'll do. It'll depend on who says something stupid that day.
So
That too. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot.
I don't know what's going to happen to us.
There's a lot that Biden could be doing, and he's not, and that's one of the frightening things. Bernie Sanders makes more news on doing nothing than Joe Biden is doing. I mean, Bernie had donated money from that his campaign took in. He donated that to COVID-19 fight, and that made news. Bernie goes on a lot of the shows, and it gets shared all over the place. One of the
He's
problems
on Twitch TV too.
What was that?
He's on Twitch TV. He has his own channel on Twitch TV, like Donald Trump does.
One of the problems that Biden has is he doesn't inspire people. Bernie is whether you like him or not, he's a very inspirational person. Biden is not, and that's really sad because we're at a time in our country, in our history, that we need that. We need that. Joe Biden was great as Obama was leaving. I think as a country, we were lucky to have Joe Biden as vice president at the end of the presidency for Obama, as Trump was coming in. We all kind of leaned on Uncle Joe. And the memes were great. And he was very, heartfelt. And I mean, that was all great. But that's not the guy I want running my country. I mean,
Another thing about our political system is that to really make it in our political system, you have to be a personality. You got to be somebody that people want to see. You got to be a Trump. You got to be an Obama. You got to be. You look at the past few presidents that have won, and they've all been characters in their own right. Even George W. Bush, they've all been characters. people who you'll always remember these people and the little ticks and things about them. You're going to remember those things. And Joe Biden isn't that guy. There's a lot of those people. You can almost tell who's not going to win the presidency or who's not even going to get the nomination by simply how people react to them. It's like if you don't have that oomph about you, it's not going anywhere. I mean, I think there's a lot of people. I think Elizabeth Warren was good. I think she had a lot of that going on. A few of the other candidates had it, but if you're not really in there and you don't have that personality and you're not up there bigger than life, you're probably not going to win. It's just a thing. And if people don't like you, you're also not going to win. It's a lot more than even just spending a lot of money on ads. It's a lot more than even having your name out there a lot. That's one of those things that happens in local elections. You know how like they'll have all the elections and you don't really know who these people are, but that one guy whose name you keep hearing, that's something that can happen in local elections. But in the big stuff, you can hear that name, but you know who those people are. And if that's not somebody that you're feeling, they're done. You got to have that personality. So that's the thing with our elections. Everything is like a movie.
Joe Biden is today's George H.W. Bush. He is the modern day Pappy Bush.
You think so?
He's just there. Like he might have the brains for it. I don't know if he does or not. He might have the chops to do the job. I mean, I don't know if he does or not. But other than that, he's a blank slate. He doesn't have a personality. He doesn't have. He's just Joe. Much like Pappy Bush was. He was just George.
Well, I mean, some of the things that people think of Joe Biden. I'm Joe Biden, and I forgot this message.
Yeah.
We could have used somebody. Here's my thing. After Obama, the Democrats have had nobody as dynamic as him to follow him up. It's actually like, who's going to be the next Barack Obama? Who's going to be that person? You got to have a younger person running. And in my opinion, for a Democrat, you got to have a younger person. You got to have somebody that knows not only about politics, they have to know about the internet. They have to be smart about things like that. And I think all of the Democratic candidates, not all of them, I think a lot of the major ones that everybody won, I think they're too old. They're too old and they're out of touch. And Trump is old and out of touch, but his voters are kind of old and out of touch, so that works for him. I think you Democrats need a younger person that knows a lot more. I think if they had somebody like AOC who wasn't as radical, I think that could. I think that I would say somebody I think she's actually getting a little bit better as time goes on. She's kind of, but I think that having someone who at least was a little more.
AOC is not radical.
I think she's radical by the average, by a lot of people's standard. Okay, she's radical enough to turn some people off.
It's because
how is she radical?
To get to the presidency in America, people want somebody who is extremely basic and safe. There's such a line that you have to walk. And I know a lot of people will look at her and kind of say she's not she's not really radical and things like that. Well, but a lot of people would look at her and say, yeah, she's very much radical.
Her for her tax policy. They basically say it's socialism, which it's not. But her tax policies, what she would like to see, what she has proposed, is actually more conservative than what we had in the United States in the 1950s. I mean, she's not by any stretch is she radical. It's just that our country has shifted, not even shifted, it's been yanked so hard to the right that anytime you talk about anything that's even kind of centrist, people freak out and go, socialism, they're radical, they're leftist. She's not. There's nothing radical about what she proposes or about what she stands for. She's actually where we should be. It's where we used to be when the country was healthy. When the country was healthy, when jobs were flourishing, when people were making money, when the middle class was booming. The policies that she's proposing, that's what we had at the time. She wants to get back to normal. That's not radical.
The Green New Deal is kind of the Green New Deal is kind of radical.
Well, the Green New Deal, but it needs something radical.
To be fair, Bernie Sanders has been called radical at least a tenth of the times that AOC has been called radical, but it's the same ideas, but it's not an old white guy saying them. It's a young woman of color, and we can't have that.
That's true. Very true.
I would say I would put this out there about Bernie. I think that Bernie doesn't. I think there are things he says, but when he said, and again, this is all about perception.
Yes.
I think Bernie has the ability to say things, even if they may be radical. He has a way of saying them that makes people more comfortable with them.
There's two sides.
And I know that there are some people who.
He has this old white guy way of saying things.
No, it's even better than, it's even better than that. I was thinking about this earlier. Like Bernie Sanders, there are people that he says things, and there are people that brush it off. He's a crazy old man. And it's okay for him to say it because he's a crazy old man. Then there's other people, like he's an angry old man who's waving his finger in the air. Yeah. And I'm just like, no, he's not an angry old man. He's an old New York City Jew. And if you're not familiar with the old New York City Jews, you might think Bernie is angry. They all talk like that. You can spend any time in New York City where there's large population of Jewish people, older Jewish people, you'll see dozens and dozens of Bernie Sanders around. They all talk like that. They're all what we got to do. I mean, all of them. It's a very New York City thing. So angry? No. New York City Jew? Yes. Yes.
I don't see Bernie as angry. I think if you see what's going on in America right now and you're not angry, something's severely out of touch. You know, I'm angry and I'm 3,000 miles across the water. You know what I mean? And it just makes me furious sometimes when I see what goes on in America, and what passes for normal now is actually disgusting to me. And I really hate it because, again, I get very for being selfish because I value my peace of mind, and I don't want to have to get tied up in all this bullshit all the time. But the world's going on fire, and I just can't help it. I can't help but care about it. You know what I mean? And I don't want it to happen. I feel like it's my responsibility to save the world, and I'm like a kid with his finger in the dike, and there's fuck all I can do about it but stand there and hope it doesn't explode. You know?
Well, you know who I think should have. You know who I think should have got more attention, and he also is a person of color. Andrew Yang had a lot of good ideas, and I think he was kind of
right now.
Yeah.
You know, money. How about that?
Yeah, Trump called him.
Andrew Yang was a guy that had some really nice ideas and was kind of people paid attention to him, but he just didn't get. I think that's kind of a thing. Like, if you want to talk about some radical stuff,
Nathan, here's the thing.
Yeah,
Andrew Yang got shafted by the media. I mean, there was 2 debates in a row. Turn his microphone on until they asked him a question, so he couldn't butt in on people because his mic was fucking turned off. How is that?
They
want to put things down.
Do that.
Why did they do it to Andrew Yang and not anybody else? It's just to me.
Shady. They're shady. They do. Here's my. And again, Democratic Party are shady as hell, every bit as much as the Republicans, and they have people they want in, and they're gonna screw people over to get their people in, and they're gonna screw themselves over because Trump is probably gonna get in again.
Yeah,
and they don't know how to say.
It's
Huh?
media as well.
Say it again.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I was going to let you finish your point.
Yeah, all
Yeah,
that.
go ahead.
They're all. I just believe. I believe they're all connected. The media, the Democratic Party. I mean, we saw. They were helping the Democrats out. It's all connected, and you're getting these certain types of Democrats in when maybe you need something different, but you're never going to get that different thing. And then, like I said, I think Barack Obama was probably the perfect Democrat, and then after him, they don't know what to do now. They literally have no idea what to do. They need that perfect person that's going to kind of do what the establishment wants them to do, but at the same time, people are kind of tired of that establishment candidate.
Well, this is what I was about to say.
And the people who they're picking,
for a Democratic candidate, for a Democratic candidate, to win the presidency, they have to get people who are not registered Democrats to vote for them. The Republicans don't have that problem because Republican registered voters are much more likely to vote than Democratic registered voters. You piss across a registered Democrat, you piss them off enough, they're like, fuck it, I won't vote. Plus, you also need the people who don't normally vote because that is the biggest pool of potential voters. This is why I don't think they should be trying to appeal to the right wing at all for any reason. Because it's not just the left wing of the party that you're pissing off by that. There's a whole bunch of people that you could win into the conversation and say, look, come and vote for the first time and we will sort your fucking shit out. Trust us, we'll do it, And they could that's a much bigger pool of people to draw from than trying to get stray Republicans who might be disgusted with Trump. I mean, I'm sure there's Republicans out there who are disgusted with Trump. They must be, right? They must be.
But there's people who voted for Trump who voted out of aggravation because they just didn't want Hillary. You can get those people back. And there's people who would have voted for Bernie that you can get back. Well, I guess those are probably the same people. There are people you can get back because a lot of those people, I won't say a lot, I'll say there's a group of those people that are not hardcore Trump supporters. And they voted to, you can get those people back, and they probably didn't go into it thinking Trump was going to be this bad. I mean, even I, when he got in, I was kind of like, oh shit. But okay, but surely they're going to reel this guy in. I mean, they're not going to let him
give the guy a chance. I remember you were very much a sort of let's give him enough rope to hang himself thing.
I was a guy who felt like there's only you ever see that John Mulaney joke about the horse in the hospital? John Mulaney tells this joke about a horse in the hospital, and it's the funniest thing because he's talking about there are things that Trump does, and you're sitting there, you're like, I've never seen a person do that before. And every time you think there's someone who's going to get him under control, that person gets fired, and you're like, wait, can he fire the guy that's supposed to get him under control? How's that happen? So everything that's happening is so shocking. You just don't know. You're like, wait a minute.
Here's the thing. I mean, I honestly think they're about to jump us all. This reminds me of what Sword Sage was saying last week about how if someone gets to jump on you, I mean, if they just decide right now to cancel the elections, literally, folks, what will we do? Because if the shit comes down, what would we do? Especially while we're locked down.
Even if Trump did not cancel the whole election, but just decided at a very convenient point, say in mid-October, to reinstate quarantines nationwide, he could suppress enough voting to seriously affect the election, and that will be at his fingertips. No matter where the numbers are, he might say, you know what, we're going to try a different strategy at squashing this virus out of our country. So mid-October, we're going into stay-at-home order, quarantine at home, everyone.
That's more likely.
Yeah.
That's more likely than trying to cancel the election. Because the problem with trying to cancel the election is, first, he doesn't have the constitutional power to do it. Second
Right.
is it's not one election, it's
When-
56 elections because each state runs their own election.
Right.
So he couldn't really cancel the election. There's no way it could happen. It's just not possible.
I
But he
wouldn't
could
say
do
that.
what-
There's a lot of things that I thought there was no way to happen.
Yeah, right.
and they did. Nothing right now. Nothing is. And you know, I'm a constitutionalist. I'm big on the Constitution, and I'm just looking at stuff happening, going that can't happen. And next thing I know, this thing happens. I'm like,
So the
okay,
largest
okay.
concentration of the coronavirus is actually in all the population centers, and that just happens to correlate with where the most liberal people are. So he could actually do a selective stay-at-home order by just having people in certain states that are of his party lock down certain counties, and he could affect the vote that way without even doing a national proclamation, just getting his cronies that are in different levels of office in different states to do selective stay-at-home orders.
Now you've said it. Now he's got the idea. Thanks.
Okay, I'll say something else though. There was a plan hatched 3.5 years ago, and I believe it was spoken of on the Breakfast Club, that people should voluntarily move to other states if they are liberal, just to spread out their votes, because Hillary should have won if it was a direct democracy. So we could even out the playing field by just having people move to different states. Well, what just happened in New York was people are leaving for their other families' homes in droves.
Yes.
With enough time to establish residence and re-register to vote in a different state.
Yeah. I actually live in a community where a lot of people over the last few weeks have been coming from New York City to my town because they have a second home here, or they have a summer home or whatever, vacation home. We have a lot of city residents that are moving back in, pissing off the year-round locals here, pissing them all off. I mean, our local town pages on Facebook are full of people like losing their shit at the people from the city coming up. But,
yeah, this is happening everywhere, where people are leaving the metro areas where they think the virus is congregating, and they're going to the more rural, but they're also leaving liberal states and going to conservative states. This tactic is playing out not because people organized it, because fear is driving it, but it's a different.
it achieves the same end.
A difference, right?
Yeah.
And it's within enough time for them to re-register to vote in a different place. All they got to do is realize they're going to be there long enough to be living there and making a new life, and all they got to do is re-register to vote, and we're going to have a blue wave. And
I hope so.
Stay-at-home orders.
Hope so.
There'll be stay-at-home orders trying to stop it, but if enough of those people sign up for mail-in ballots instead, and you can take a mail-in and you could drop it off while social distancing, because they put out these giant metal containers.
Oh yeah.
And you could drop off a mail-in ballot and just like drive by and drop it in. If the post office isn't working, you could still go over there and put it in while social distancing.
Although I don't see, it's like anything that anybody says we can do to vote, I'm still gonna be distrustful of it. I'm like, they can do something there. I mean, we got to have some way to vote, but
all the poll workers
everything
get scared and go home like they did in Wisconsin, causing whole polling places to shut down, and they were all concentrated in one place. They can do that, but those boxes are big steel things that still collect people's ballots when they're mail-in ballots, and it doesn't matter how many people get scared and go home. The box is still there. It's like a giant post office box, but more like an armored car version.
Yeah.
And it's out there in the public. You can just walk up and put it in, and no one can stop you.
Okay, well, how about adding something to kind of add to this a little bit? Here over in Michigan, we've just had some other executive orders. There actually has been an executive order by our governor to say anybody who's going to those vacation homes, if you're going to say just don't go there or don't even go there at all because they're afraid of the virus going back and forth.
Mhm.
How many places are going to have that? What's that going to do?
Right. I mean, that's the issue that my town is having. Not that there's any evidence that anyone brought the virus with them. It's just that people are terrified that these people, I mean, because they're coming, here's the way where I live, the way that people think about New York City is that it's dirty and crime ridden, and all these filthy, dirty people from New York City who just happen to be rich are bringing the dirt and the grime and the virus with them. How dare they do that to our community? And I mean, they might be right. It's just that there isn't any evidence that they are. It's just that they might be. So.
You don't have to be dirty, filthy, grimy, poor, or anything.
Yeah, but that's just the way, people. You know people.
Yeah.
Okay, it got quiet.
Well, it does have.
This
There is a correlation, though, that I've been seeing, like in Chicago, with 2/3 of the people dying being African American.
Same in Detroit. Same in the Detroit area, too. We've had numbers that have really increased.
And further than that, when you look at what's behind that, it's because being poor is correlating to racism and, all the systemic things behind that. Having poor health because you don't have good health insurance and you're eating fast food because it's cheaper. All of that, behind that, it's showing in the demographics of the people who are dying. So,
well, not
And
just
also,
the American community, but also even the Hispanic community too, because we have a pretty big population in downtown Detroit.
And another thing, a lot of Black people have a lot of jobs that they tend to have to, you have to go to your job if you still have it. And a lot of those jobs are customer service based. And a lot of them are jobs where you're going to be meeting people. I mean, like if you look at the CTA jobs, a lot of the people who do the CTA, run CTA in Chicago are African American. And there are people, because I hear, I hear them talk about things. Like I would say about 3 weeks ago when this thing was still, before they were telling you to wear masks and stuff, people were talking about some of them failing the, some of them had caught the COVID virus. So people in those places had caught it. And now when you get on the train and stuff, the conductors are wearing masks and things like that, the people who are your meeting. But a lot of those people are African-American or minority, a lot of people in those positions. So even when you're talking about things like police and things like that, a lot of police and things are minorities as well. So you got that, train conductors, male people, obviously the people who work in the fast food restaurants, work in the stores that are open. So yeah, it's a lot of you still have to get out there. You still have to go. You got to go to work, and because if you miss work, well, you don't have any money. Even though the government, they say they're going to send you some money, when are you going to get it? So you still got to pay bills. You still got to put food on the table. So people are going to work if they can.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I mean, I teach students in South Korea. I work as an online teacher as my day job. So even before this came, I knew ahead of time what we were going to be in for as it was coming. I still have I have a lot of my younger students. They're bored to death. They're like, I can't even, what do you do? I asked them on Monday, what do you do for the weekend? I can't go outside. I am just so bored. I can't handle it. But in the Asian countries, whether it's South Korea, Asia, or China, they've always worn masks. Right now in South Korea, it's not just because of the virus. They also have this micro dust because of the factories out in China or the Gobi Desert. They also have this happen because of there's another one, the yellow dust that comes through. So they're used to it. So I've had a couple students ask me, well, why are you so hung up on this mask thing? This is something that, you should be doing. And they're still doing. Even students who are now going to academies, and as they're opening things up a little bit over there, because things have slowed down so much. I mean, their numbers, they don't get as many cases as they did like a couple months ago, if you will. And they still have to go with a mask. And it's like, no big deal. We don't make a big deal out of it. Here we do. And we have to find a way. I think we have to find a way to not make a big deal, take the stigma out of it, because this is what's going to help.
Yeah, because I actually got some. Actually, it's funny. I just got some today off of eBay, and they're like, if you buy them from eBay, they're like 2-3 weeks behind. Even if you order them now, they're behind. I got some of the kind of thin ones. I got one of those like neoprene ones that's got a little filter. I'm hoping that works.
Well, a lot of people are making masks, but a lot of people are making masks though. I don't know how many people I've seen, and people that I know who are crafters, sewers, seamstresses, whatever. They're making these masks not only for themselves, but they have been donating them by loads of them to the hospitals that need it, to the nursing homes that need it. I mean, there you go. I got one too. I should go get it a little bit here, because I got one that was just homemade, and I'm in the process of knitting one. So, I mean, that's where I like to see people together. And when I'm thinking in regards to this virus, I see humanity coming in ways that I've never seen before. Politically, that's going to be different.
Yeah, it's. I'm really anxious to see what's going to happen with all this, and if a Democrat does win, if Joe Biden wins, I'm interested in seeing what the backlash is going to be, because I think there's going to be a lot of mad people. The same people who were laughing at the people who were going crazy about Trump. Those people are going to be mad if that does happen. I'm hoping.
I think in that case, it's going to depend on who has the focus. Who has the focus? What I've seen between the two parties, specifically, Republicans have more of a laser beam focus. Democrats, not so much. I haven't seen that.
That's certainly true. But I think.
Yeah,
go ahead, Nathan. Yeah.
I was going to say that I think that the Democrats, they have a focus, but I think there's a division in the Democrats that just isn't there with the Republicans. I do think that there is a division between what's kind of considered a middle of the road liberal Democrat versus what is kind of what again is considered more of a radical Democrat. And I think because you look at somebody like myself, 10 years ago, I was a liberal. My views haven't really changed, and I'm suddenly considered a conservative, which is bonkers to me. So right. I'm like, really? And I can see why people would say, technically, I guess I am a conservative, and to a certain extent, I'm a borderline libertarian. But as far as my views about, I guess you would call me a social liberal, I guess. I don't know, but my views about people and how society should run and things like that, a lot of it is liberal. I think the most conservative thing about me is I tend to be very, very big into capitalism, and I guess I'm religious, and I'm into the Constitution. But and even with that, though, I guess the main things for me are the freedom of speech and the Second Amendment. So I guess people would just say you're conservative.
I think the difference doesn't really need to come down to political left versus right. What needs to come down more to top versus bottom. We need to be really much more worried about equalizing. It doesn't necessarily have to be no gap between the top and the bottom. But I would personally be more satisfied if the bottom strata of society was prosperous to at least a small degree, and the top strata of society was maybe 10 times more prosperous than that. 10 times. So you've got all this money circulating around, and you could stratify things. And as long as you took efforts not to allow a caste system to develop, where every different strata turns out to be like two, like, you have to be, everybody have to have the same rights, basically, and stuff. 10 times as much as the guys at the bottom, that's still plenty of room for differences in lifestyles and whatever. But if you had it limited to that much, the money has to circulate around in the economy. It's got nowhere else to go, right? Has to go around and round in circles. And so everybody would prosper. The people at the top wouldn't prosper as much as they do now, and the people at the bottom wouldn't suffer as much as they do now, and there wouldn't be so much disparity, so people wouldn't necessarily feel less equal than they do right now because of the disparities that exist. It's not an accident that people feel that they're in competition with each other, because they fucking are.
Well, does it seem to you like, and this is something that I've seen, like like I said, I'm definitely a capitalist, but it does seem to me that things are actually put in place specifically to keep people from achieving. I mean, like earlier we were talking about me and you were talking about YouTube and the stuff that was happening, why we aren't making videos and things as much as we used to. When I first started making videos here, you could make some money on YouTube. You could get some cash doing these videos, especially me doing my movies and stuff. Every month, my money was going up. And it's like as Susan Wojcicki came in and made changes, it seemed to me that the changes were specifically made to keep people from rising as quick as they were. Because
that's right.
You're talking
it's meant to favor the corporate side of YouTube. That back in the day, 10 years ago, there was nowhere near as much corporate content on YouTube as there is now. It's disgusting. Almost everybody
say those changes were made. Those changes were made because of capitalism to protect the capitalistic interests of Google and YouTube. It's capitalism that killed.
Yeah,
YouTube.
but that's bad capitalism. That's garbage capitalism.
That's the thing.
That's not good capitalism.
That's the thing. I mean, there's good capitalism and there's bad capitalism. There's good fat and there's bad fat. The good cholesterol and the bad cholesterol. I owned a business. I'm not against
everybody's
capitalism.
making money.
Right. I owned a business. I had a restaurant. I'm not against capitalism. But when people talk about capitalism as being the big bad meanie, they're not talking about you. They're not talking about me. They're not talking about Michael. They're talking about Disney. They're talking about Viacom. They're talking about these big, massive companies that have the power to say to you, you're gone. They have the power to silence you by just simply flicking at you.
Yeah, because it became ridiculous after a while because. Wait,
no, I was just saying that's the people that they're talking about, not us.
I think he might have lost his microphone.
Maybe.
Wait a minute, say it again. You broke up.
You also broke up, Nathan. The one thing I wanted to pitch in is that any mechanism that might achieve what Got That Funk was talking about, though, is going to be yelled at by the right or yelled about by the right as being socialist or communist. Like there's even higher taxes gets framed as socialist or communist if it's trying to build infrastructure or the safety net. So I don't know how we get past that.
Josh, when I was telling you needed to be a part of this stream, I was saying, this is going to be just people getting together and it wasn't going to be, basically like it became. Because like you were telling me that you lost a lot of heart in the 2016 election, and it just it killed something in you. And I feel like I'm just reaching in at your heart and like pulling it out and just like throwing it on the floor and stomping on it.
It's all good. It's all good. No, I mean, like I'm extremely disfranchised with the way that the country's gone, the way that the elections have gone, the way that. And I mean, we discussed it earlier, and that's kind of my hesitancy to come on a stream or make YouTube videos is because like I don't know what to say when a majority of people don't care about becoming civically educated or anything like that. And so like I don't know what to how to apply any of my energy that might even be the beginning of useful with the knowledge that I have and the tools that I have. So that's the reason why.
Welcome to the upside down.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I wanted to bring up this horrible situation that was put upon Bernie on his final day of his campaign. The Republicans forced the Wisconsin primary to still be a thing, and they forced it so that all the polling places would still be open on the day that they were supposed to be, even though everyone should have been staying at home, right? If Bernie didn't quit that morning, letting his followers know that there was no reason for them to risk their lives to go to the polls to vote for him, and letting all the Biden people know that Biden was a shoo-in and there was no reason for them to risk their lives, at least thousands of people would have died just voting in the primary. At least. And right now we have 20,000 plus deaths that have happened in America. And you can maybe make a certain percentage of, like, say, for me, I say 75% of that is the fault of Donald Trump and not locking down the country when he had 2 months of notice, right? And I'll give 20% of that to China for misinformation when this was first a tiny outbreak, right? Those are my statistics pulled out of my ass. But on that morning, Bernie Sanders could have suspended his campaign days before that morning. He was waiting for courts to step in and say, no, this primary does need to be suspended and pushed back, because it is going to threaten people's lives. And it didn't happen. A Republican court and Republicans in the Wisconsin legislature pushed this issue to that day where he had to make the choice. Is my slim chance at a rebound because of all this coronavirus showing people that universal health care is needed, as 10 times as many people are losing their health care than are getting the virus ahead of the virus spreading out and catching them all? Is this slim chance that I have of edging out Biden towards the finish line worth a couple thousand people dying? Probably a 9/11 worth of people dying for his campaign. He had to make that tough decision because the Republicans put him in that decision.
Yeah, well, I mean, people are faulting him for staying in as long as he did, and it infuriates me because it's like you don't understand how these things work. Well, it's like you're just not understanding. It's not like Bernie can just say, okay, well, I drop out at this stage with the amount of followers and supporters that he has, and everything is just rosy for Biden. There's a purpose for Bernie's name remaining on the ballot. There's a purpose for the convention that's going to be coming up.
So if the Republicans had this feeling that Biden can't beat Trump, but Bernie could, it was in their best interest to tell him behind the scenes, we're going to, in every Republican-led state, keep that primary happening.
Bingo.
And you're going to have to make the decision, each state, all the way up to that convention, how many thousand people have to die for you to win?
Yep.
That's how upside down we are right now. And I know, Josh, I unzipped my pants and pissed on that heart that I was stomping on before. I know. But
to that point you were just making, Michael, that brings me back to what I said like an hour and a half ago or whatever about the malice of this administration. And I think the consensus amongst the group that we're talking at the time was it's both malice and ineptness, I guess. But I mean, I tend to lean on malice more than ineptness. I mean, people go on about how Trump's not very bright, and I think there's plenty of evidence for that. But I think he's shrewd as fuck. it occurs to me like there doesn't seem to be any level beneath which Trump will stoop. I mean, I can't remember any time in my life I've ever been so ashamed of being American as when I saw him standing next to Putin in Helsinki 2 years ago and saying that shit that he said. Remember that, Nathan? We did a bunch of breakfast club stuff about that.
Yeah, I think I did a video about that. I'm sitting here going like, when has Russia ever been our friend? What are you? I don't think any president
or above us. I mean, he totally deferred to Putin. Like, he was very strong in his denial. And if you even watch that clip and look at his face, frankly, I'm probably reading too much into it because I am admittedly biased. But he looks scared shitless. He looks like he knows if he doesn't say the right thing, something bad is going to happen. Now, I know that's me reading a lot of stuff to it, and I'm really aware of that. But I can't help you look at the footage and tell me it looks normal. It doesn't look normal.
No, you're right. That's how it came across.
I have no. I mean, watching all of that, and again, like like you, I was around in the '80s when Reagan was president, and I've always known Russia to be at best a country that is okay. That's Russia over there. At worst, one of our biggest enemies and threats.
Sure.
And to see that happen, I'm sitting there going like, there's, to my knowledge, no president that would ever do that.
No.
I was
stand there and say what he said and the way he said it. Shocking.
Then that's going back to what I said. I mean, anything that you think could not happen under Donald Trump, it can. It probably will. I mean, there are things that happen here where I just stopped and went like, wait, how is he doing this, and why is he doing this again? And there's this idea that he just really doesn't care about anything as long as if it gets him back into the White House or it gets him the thing he wants, which I'm not even sure what that is, because I don't even think I was one of those people who I kind of really didn't even think he wanted to be president. I thought for him this was all a big joke.
I think at first he didn't want to be president, but I think now that he's gotten an idea of the fact that he can reward his friends and punish his enemies, he's fucking loving it.
He
never thought he could win.
I didn't. Yeah, I just never thought he would win. I don't think he thought he would win.
No.
A lot of us didn't think he would win, and I knew he was good. When the Cubs won the World Series, I knew Trump was winning.
Well, I knew Trump. I had a pretty good feeling Trump was going to win when I saw the second Republican debate, because it was quite clear to me how the whole debate was basically structured to revolve around Trump reacting to everything that everyone else was saying and doing.
And he was in the center. They put him in the center.
Yeah, that's right. And like literally the camera as well. Everything about it was constantly back to Trump. How did Trump react? And you could have made a video that lasted 10 minutes long of 20-second clips of Trump making, or 10-second clips even of Trump making ridiculous expressions during that debate. I mean, you watch his face in that debate and he's a clown. It's like, you can't believe someone who's running for public office is making that kind of a public spectacle of himself with his face, and it worked. This is the thing. This is why I can't help but sometimes I imbue evil on the guy, because it's just like he seems to cast a spell on people that, frankly, it doesn't work on me, and I'm so fucking glad. But it obviously works on a lot of people.
I had a feeling that he was going to win when he got the nomination. I kind of knew he was going to win when he debated with Hillary, and he was walking around the stage, kind of being
chasing her.
kind of being an asshole on the stage, and she didn't say anything. And I thought, you now look very weak. You look like a weak woman, and that's how a lot of people, men, are going to see you, and they're not going to vote for you because you refuse to stand your ground and defend your space. I right then I was like, oh shit, she failed. She failed.
Those are psychological tricks. Those are psychological tricks. And he's very good at that, all the way down to the power tie and the whole. He's all that stuff he has on lock. And if you don't know how to undo it or how to guard against it, it's just not you just aren't going to, you know. I mean, I don't even know what you could probably. And again, the media, they need Trump as well.
Like, I know your history. She could have said, like, I know your history with women. I really would rather you not stand behind me. You know, I mean, something to kind of put me in check.
That would have been great.
Yeah, something, but she didn't.
Turn around and tell him to make sure he kept his hands to himself. That would have been a good one.
Yeah, you know, I mean, something. But she didn't say anything in her own defense when he was acting in a way that did appear like he was trying to be intimidating. And because she said nothing, it looked as though she allowed herself to be bullied and intimidated without him saying a word. So yeah, it's a psychological.
I think her strategy seemed to be to rise above it and not acknowledge that he was being a dick. I think that's where she's coming from. I think that's where she was coming from, though, Rob. I just think that's where I think she was trying to rise above it and not let it look like it was bothering her.
I agree, but you can't rise above a bully.
There's another aspect to it as well.
Please just be met eye to eye.
There's another aspect to it as well where Trump had a plan as to how to get businesses to operate in the United States and bring back jobs to the United States, and Hillary had nothing to offer as far as keeping the jobs here.
Yeah,
when that came up, she had nothing to offer that would entice companies to want to keep the workers here.
Mm-hmm. Well, Trump didn't have a plan for that. He just said he did.
Yeah,
it's true. It's true. But Hillary never even addressed it. She didn't even. He would address that, and then Hillary didn't.
I don't think Hillary. I think Hillary assumed that this was all a joke. I don't think she took him as seriously as she should have, and
Agreed.
That was.
I agree.
He's one of the people who, like we all say, we've all said, yeah, he's an idiot, but he's not. He knows enough to get the things done that he needs done to get what he wants. And that's always been the thing about Donald Trump. I mean, even if you look at how he runs his businesses, yes, his businesses fail, but they still have his name on them. And they're still, you know, when the banks take them over, they still have his name on them. So he knows how to do the things to get the things he wants. And
basically, you're saying he's good at being a cheater.
He's smart. He's very smart in some areas and very dumb in others.
Yeah, and he's dumb in the areas that we actually need him to be smart in as a president. You know what? I'll say this: if he really wanted to be an actual good president, he could use some of that, the stuff he knows and does. He could actually use some of that to actually be a good president. But he just doesn't want to be. He just doesn't care. He's like, no, these are things I want to do, and I'm going to do what I want to do, and it doesn't really matter if it's done right or not. He has all his,
I think he's lost. I think he's flying blind. I think he's flying blind. I think he's lost. I don't think there's any strategy. I don't think there's any thought. I don't think there's any. There's nothing.
I don't know why he. Well, I guess to me, I would if I were in his position, even if I didn't know exactly what I needed to know, and I could put people in positions to give me the information I needed. I mean, really, that's all he would have to do is defer to the people who knows. He can make himself look like.
I'm going to push back on that one.
The best person.
Nathan, I'm going to push back with you on that one because he's had people who knew what they were doing, but he never listened to them. And unless they were loyal to them, then he would say, screw you, you're out. He's always done that. So he's got a lot of yes men around him. So even if there was somebody that knew what he wanted, it doesn't matter. As long as you're loyal to him, that's all he cares about, regardless of the expertise.
And he didn't really bring on anybody that knew anything. Anyone that knew anything that was a career a career staffer was fired. Everybody he brought on they're all lackeys. What does Ben Carson know about HUD? Betsy DeVos, what does she know about education? These people are Steve Mnuchin doesn't know anything about the Treasury. All he knows about is how to make money.
Yep.
That's what he cares about. I mean,
Yep.
the people he put in places are the worst possible people that you would want to have in those places. I mean, he had somebody in the EPA whose entire purpose for being was to dismantle the EPA.
Yep.
Expertise.
That seems to be his whole thing. It's everybody he puts in charge of something is the exact opposite of what it's like the exact opposite of the thing that they're in charge of.
The upside down.
Yeah, it's scary. But like when you really think about it completely, it's scary. It's incredibly scary. It's like everything bad that can be bad is exactly what's happening right now.
Yeah, it's almost like you're in some kind of
Wow.
what kind of movie? I mean, the script kind of writes itself. That's the thing. It just totally writes itself here.
It has to write itself. There's nobody there that can write it.
That's true. Or read it either.
I suppose if he wanted to dismantle the Department of Education, he'd do what he's done, and if he wants to dismantle the EPA, then he'd do what he's done.
Oh yeah.
There's that aspect to it as well. He might be wanting to dismantle a lot of this stuff in the name of so he can please his right-wing people that think that we should reduce the size of the government.
Yep, very true. Very true.
I mean, what boggles my mind is people don't seem to understand that there are positions in the government and there are agencies in the government that exist for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just say, I don't agree with what this agency does, so let's get rid of it to save money. No, I mean, that agency didn't always exist.
Mm-hmm.
And it came to be in existence at some point because there was a need for it. Like the pandemic response team, it was put into place for a reason, and it was successful in its purpose. It had a goal, and it was successful. So now it's gone, and here we are.
Yeah, and the EPA as well. I saw a picture of New York City circa 1971, and it was like covered in steamy, smoky, smoggy stuff, and you could barely see, the skyscrapers across Manhattan because of this.
I remember seeing.
And then there's a picture of it in like 1990, and it's all blue skies and beautiful, And that was only 20 years worth of having clean air laws. 20 years, and they managed to clean the whole city up.
When I was a kid, I remember the smog alerts they used to have on the radio. I remember because where I live now, I can't see New York, but I don't have to go too far to be able to see the skyline of New York. And when I was a kid, it was always gray. New York was always under a cloud of smog. It hasn't been that way for a long time because of the EPA. So dismantling that, which is something that Trump wants to do, will only bring back the smog.
Well, he's pretty much done it because just 2 weeks ago, he said to the factories and stuff that he's completely relaxed any laws about dumping into the waterways, which is like literally insane. And again, I can't help the way my mind works, and I know I'm not as sane as the rest of you. I've got a couple of screws loose, It's a psychedelic thing, but like I can't help but wonder sometimes, what's coming with this future stuff, because the way they're acting, it's like they know there's not going to be a future. That's how they're acting. The only way it makes sense to me is if they know some shit's coming down, and there's no point worrying about the rivers or the oceans or the future, because that boy's going to push that button at some time. That's what I honestly feel.
It's either that or I have one screw you. I mean, it's one or the other.
Can you repeat that?
Think Trump is...
Deb, your mic.
Yeah, you were cutting out.
I'm saying that it's either what you said, Paul, or it's I have mine, screw you.
Right.
It's one or the other.
I still think Trump is a foreign agent. I still think there's no way you could jump. It's like literally, if all of this stuff happens, it could literally destroy the country.
Right.
And I can't believe that one person could literally sit there and go, like I said before, everything we could possibly do that's bad, let's do it. And because it seems like everything is putting this country in a position to just get, messed up, to just be destroyed. I mean, this is America. This is the America. And there's no way, there's no way in hell we should be in the position we're in right now. This is like the country. Okay. This is this is where everybody wants to be. This is what's hot on the street. This is America, and we're in a position where we just shouldn't be here. There are countries who are hit, and they're coming out of this quicker. We responded to this in a way like, our president didn't even want to respond to it, said it was a hoax.
He's still not responding to it. He's still not responding to it. For me, I feel like there is a reason to this. I think, whether you want to say malice, however you want to put it, there's something there's a reason why this is being done. And I can't shake that feeling that it's not just, that there's a bunch of things that are colliding to make this
Right.
a thing.
But it's,
That's like what Brock was saying last week, isn't it, Nathan? Brock was basically saying the same thing last week. It's like this is the perfect situation for them to exploit in the most ugly way possible.
Yes.
To all of us. I mean everybody in the world when I'm talking about all of us in this case, because it's going to take the whole world to fucking say no to the bullshit that we're in. The system has to come down, but if you tear it down and make it crash, everybody's going to suffer and too many people are going to die. The only responsible thing to do is to try to change the system from the inside out. That's the only responsible way to do it. But is it too late for that? Is a legitimate question. Does it have to crash? I don't know.
I don't think it's too late, but I think that I just don't know what to I don't know what it would have to take a lot of people getting their heads out of their ass and saying, okay, we need to do something about this guy. We need to put in, at this point, no matter what you think about Pence or whatever, I think at least Pence would be a politician, like he would at least know enough to go, I got to do something that kind of makes sense. Whereas I think Trump doesn't even try to make sense. He's just like, let's do this. I feel it's this. My gut is better than 100 of all the scientists. My gut's better than that. I'm going to go with this. No, you might want to listen to the scientists. You might want to listen to the people who know about this type of stuff.
Pence kind of reminds me of the politician that George Bush reminded me of before. He's a very George Bush kind of politician, is Pence, isn't he? He's sort of like relies on that whole religious thing. He tries to come across as really straight and all this kind of stuff. And he would probably defer to the people that he thinks are smarter around him to a much larger degree than Trump does. So in lots of George W. Bush, yeah. But I think with Pence, he actually is a little more scary than Trump in the sense that Pence has an agenda that Trump doesn't have, which is a little bit sort of scarier to me personally. Having said that, what Pence doesn't have, which would make me rather have Trump than Pence as president, Pence rather than Trump, is because Pence doesn't have the cult following that Trump has. And so if something happened, Trump and Pence became president, but say the 25th Amendment, and they sprung it on Trump, and they said, look, we're going to get you because we think you're going to lose. So they get him out and put Pence in for the election. I just don't think I don't think he could carry it, because I think so many people would be like looking for blood because they got rid of Trump in what they would see as an illegitimate way. And they would consider it a coup. And they, goodness, God help America if that ever happened.
okay,
the difference between Trump and Pence, in my mind, is that Pence is what's frightening about him is that he's a true believer. Trump doesn't have any. He's not a believer in anything. He doesn't have a moral center. He doesn't have an ideological center. Trump is just out for Trump. But Mike Pence is a true believer, and that's what makes him frightening. But it's also what makes him better than Trump. Like, he'll do things that many people would think are evil or wrong, but to him, he's the good guy. You know what I mean? He would have a moral, in his mind, a moral purpose for doing the things that he's doing. So that would kind of temper certain things, and at least it would have some kind of logical following that you could argue against. Where Trump, you can't argue against anything in any way that's worthy of an argument because there's no morality behind it. There's no ideological center behind it. It's just what he wants.
Well, his entire ideology, in my opinion, is greed.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I got to jump in. So Nathan was saying that he can't believe that one person is destroying the country, essentially. But it's not one person. It's a political party. The Republican Party has had all of the things that Trump is doing on their agenda for decades.
That's true.
He's super effective at doing it because he doesn't have the same level of accountability that any other politician has ever had in the history of the United States. So yeah, I mean, Pence would be better in the sense that his popularity will rise and lower with the things that happen in the country, unlike Trump's, because he doesn't have that cult following. But there's an entire political party and part of another one that is completely corrupt by the money in politics and the moneyed interests that donate money, use lobbyists to continue this. And if you're not going to break the entire system down, the only way to reform it is to have an educated populace. And how do you educate a populace who's just either not interested or doesn't want to listen to you?
Or the government itself is actually doing everything it can to undermine education.
Yeah.
I mean, Trump has come right out and said that he doesn't believe in democracy. Just the other day, he said you can't let everybody vote because if they did, Republicans would never win. I mean, he said the quiet part out loud. he said we can't win if everybody votes.
Yeah, and if we had an educated populace,
say that should disqualify him from the presidency for fucking saying it. I mean, literally, it just blows, like Josh just said. He gets license for things that no one would ever have gotten license for before, and I want to know why. Cult of personality isn't a big enough explanation, even for me.
It's the lack of education about how civics works in the United States. Like the general population is not educated enough to be politically, to have an intelligent political conversation or to take action that politically matters.
I disagree. I disagree. I don't think it's a matter of education. I think it's a matter of will. All right. A lot of people don't consider me the smartest light bulb in the tool shed. So, and that's fine. But I don't think that the arguments that I put forth tonight, the things that I've talked about, I don't think I've done in an unintelligent way or an uneducated way. I am not an educated person by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, the highest grade I completed was 8th grade. I know things because I have a desire to know things. I read things that interest me. It's usually about politics because I have an actual desire for that. So education, yeah, it's more of a desire thing. People don't care. They don't care. Americans, for the most part, are fat and lazy. I'm sorry, but it's true, and people can hate me if they want for saying it. They want to know what the Kardashians are doing. They want to know what's happening with the British royals for some god who knows fucking reason. It has nothing to do with us or our country, but for some reason we're fascinated by them. We want to know how cheap you can get a pot pie for. But as far as anything that matters, most Americans just don't give a shit.
And on top of that, we're willfully ignorant to the fact that if something, or I probably put that in a weird way, but if something goes against what we believe or think, we literally will decide to not see other facts and things that if it's something we don't believe or something that doesn't go with what we want, we're done with it. We're not going to try to look at it and say, well, what's the true thing here? We're just not going to do that because, like I said, with my friend who's posting the propaganda stuff, it's like, you didn't research this. This is Alex Jones level conspiracy stuff here. You're not looking at this. You're just basically saying this is what I believe, so it's right. So I'm going to post it. And when I respond to it, she doesn't post back. I don't even think she knows that what she's putting out there. I just know she feels this is what's really happening, and everybody else, they're the bad guys because they're trying to destroy the country. It's like, no, people have legitimate concerns, and we see something not happening correctly, and we see this president is literally to blame for it. And to stop and say, I'm not going to try to figure out what's going on, or I'm going to just back the president no matter what. And there are people who say, I'm going to back the president no matter what because he's my guy. And it's like, well, these things are happening. Someone needs to do something, and he's not doing it. You can't tell them he's not doing a good job. They're going to believe he's doing a good job, and everybody else is the problem. Everybody else is just lying about him. Even when he gets on TV and says these things, well, he didn't say that. Who the hell else said it? It's him. Was it a deep fake? It's the whole media doing Trump deep fakes. The dude is saying this stuff. And people are like, it's all fake news. It's all lies. No.
One of the problems is we haven't learned how to disagree. I mean, there's something we all know from being on YouTube. Americans are really, really bad at approaching somebody who has a differing opinion. It's easier to lash out or to block than to actually have any kind. I mean, I know I'm guilty of this. I mean, everybody here knows that I'm guilty of this. I've done it to a few of you. I mean, but YouTube, in my mind, isn't real life. Sorry, guys. Love you all. But YouTube isn't real life in my mind. So I can be an asshole in the comments section.
Nerd Twitter.
Yeah, right. Or Twitter, right? But in real life, people in real life approach things the same way that I do the comment sections. And it's disturbing. It's really scary because they haven't learned to have that conversation that you disagree with me. Why do you think the way you do? And won't you listen to why I disagree?
Well,
you know what I mean?
Rob, can I jump in real quick? Sorry, Kazuma, I just want to jump in real quick. Rob, you said YouTube isn't real life to you? And you've got a kid and another one on the way with a girlfriend you met on YouTube.
YouTube, yep, that's true.
So YouTube, how is that not real life?
Well, we didn't really meet on YouTube.
Well, you met because of YouTube.
We met
because of YouTube.
We met because of YouTube.
So you know, I mean, there you go. I mean, you know,
I've said for
just
a long
had to dump
time,
in there and say that. I'm going to let Michael back on, but I just had to say that.
I've said for a long time. Wait, I do have to jump out here in a minute. Oh, do you have anything else you want to say before you leave, Josh?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. I just wanted to say thank you, everybody. Love you all. And I'm glad to be back, my face on camera at some level. So there you go, AOD. Maybe I'll jump back on camera for real.
Well, good to see you.
It's good to see you again, Josh.
No, it sucks that he's leaving.
I was just going to say that it's never been easier than now to form an echo chamber. Social media has allowed that kind of thing more than we've in human history. You know, another thing that another phenomenon is how easily disinformation can be put out there. I mean, 20 years ago, and when we would think about the internet, we used to think, oh, we're going to get all this information and we're going to be so much more educated. We're going to know so much more. And we look at now and there's just, it's sometimes hard to decipher between disinformation, misinformation, and real information.
All right.
Yeah.
So this exactly, I can't believe the conversation that was going on when I logged on to the studio streaming thing before we were live. The conversation that was going on then, as soon as I popped on the screen, this what we're talking about now circles right back to that. This was exactly why I created the Breakfast Club channel way back all those years ago. Conversation between friends. And the whole idea was we weren't all going to agree. We weren't all going to, be from the same political ideology, from the same walk of life. We weren't all going to be from the same area. We're not all a bunch of buddies in the same zip code. That we were going to be spread out all over the world, all different types of people who all could get along and have disagreements and have discussions every single day of the week. The way the Breakfast Club works. And it was a great success. And Paul, after I kind of canned the entire channel and Paul picked up the mantle, he made it even a much larger success. And as even though like the channel now is not mine, and it's Paul's, it's still my child. It's still my baby. I
feel that as well.
So I am extremely proud of everything that the Breakfast Club does and all of these jamborees and all the videos and all the people that have been on. I am so extremely proud of this. Like you have no idea. I'm so proud of it because it does exactly what I wanted it to do. And how many years is it going now? Where are we at?
I think the original Breakfast Club started in 2013. I think you started it in 2013. And then you dumped it in, I think it was like September or October of 2015, and I resurrected it in November of 2015. And when I first started it up, the original gang was me, JJ, the Peach, Bionic Dance, Josh, who just left, and I called Sketchy White Dude. And Sketchy White Dude was a hell of a guy, man. I mean, he's really, really fucking smart. He's super blunt, and he would be quite willing to take you down a couple of pegs if he thought you were wrong. He would do it in most like candid but not nasty way. And I'm a friend of Steve Shives. I like Steve Shives personally. However, Sketchy White Dude did a parody of Steve Shives. That's literally one of the funniest videos I ever saw in my life. It's so
I can look it up.
Good. It's so good. But yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. When I first logged on, Paul, I heard you talking about that what you believed this kind of thing was what the Breakfast Club was supposed to be. And yep, it's what the Breakfast Club was supposed to be. And it's fantastic. Hats off to you, sir, for actually making it a reality, for making it work the way it was supposed to. We did do this when I had the Breakfast Club. We did do this once before, if you remember, on Madness, Mayhem, and Charity. We were able to get everybody on for a group discussion.
I remember doing that. I thought that was for the charity thing. Yeah,
for the charity. Other than what you're doing here, it was the only time we were able to do that, and it was like jumping through hoops to make it work. I don't know if you remember. It was.
Yeah.
But it worked. But
this StreamYard is really easy to work. I mean, it's so simple. I'm really pleased. It seems pretty good.
Awesome. So
shall we wrap it up, guys? It's been like 2.5 hours. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. All right.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Has anybody got anything they want to add before we say goodbye to the audience?
I'll get you next time.
anybody else?
Good. Kazoom, you've been quiet over there, mate. You got anything to say before we go?
No, I can't think of anything.
Oh, I want to say something. Actually. Hey, Kazoom. Hey, Kazoom. I was really brutal to you for a while.
I thought you hated me for quite a while. I thought you really, really hated me.
I did. Couple of things happened. You've actually clarified a lot of the things that you had said in the past that were like really problematic. I think the word problematic is problematic, actually, but whatever. Yeah. But I mean, you had clarified a lot of that stuff. Some of your views have changed since then. And I got a life And the amazing thing about getting a life is you really give a lot less of a shit about things that people say online. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
I mean, there were times when I would like get off of YouTube and I would be angry. And like in the real world, I would be angry.
Mhm.
I don't care anymore. I mean, people call me all kinds of names still online. I still find my name coming up on chats like this. My name will come up and you know, somebody in the chat will be like, I was an asshole. Okay. Okay. All right. That's cool. I am. That's cool. So yeah.
I've been on the internet now since 1997, right? So I have this whole attitude that the internet is its own kind of, you know, it's got its own set of rules and its own world, and I basically approach people the way they approach me. If someone is hostile to me straight off the bat, I'm just going to give it back to them because I haven't got time to try to win them over. On the other hand, if someone gives me like an open mind, open heart, or just like you know, an actual considered opinion, I'm going to give them that back. I'm basically here when it comes to how I deal with people on the internet. The only thing I don't, or is I'm really lucky that I'm a small enough channel on YouTube and also on Twitter that I don't attract the kind of trolls that other people seem to attract. Like Kazoom, I don't know how the fuck you do it, man. I honestly, my hat goes off because like really lucky. I hardly have any really like nasties that, I mean, I used to have this guy, Jesus Freak 777 back in the day who was threatening
Oh, God.
regular. But anyway, but yeah, besides that guy, he was the only guy, and he was actually a dangerous person. That guy, that was, I'm talking about the Dutch one, not the American one. There was two Jesus freaks back in the day. The Dutch one who threatened DPR Jones's channel as well back in the day. It's a long time ago now. There's big YouTube dramas from like 09.
Gee, that's going back.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, one other thing I'll say, I have to say that, you know, I am kind of like, I suppose, what's the word? I haven't really earned the pride that I've actually got, but I love my YouTube channel so much because of the history that it represents in YouTube, because all my old videos are still there from 2009 and 2010. My channel has videos on it that prove that vote bots existed because I unlisted them, and there's like 3 times as many dislikes as there are views. So there's proof on my channel that vote bots were a thing. And I kind of like that. I mean, unfortunately, there's never going to be any archaeology that can unlock these secrets of the internet, right? But I just kind of like the fact that, you know, there was a few conversations back in those days that I chose not to get into. I didn't get into quite a few of the dramas, but there's a few I got into back in the day. You know, that's how me and Brock became friends. I don't know if you know that, Nathan. I mean, me and Brock aren't even really friends now, but I do get along with the guy pretty well. But back in the day when I used to do sort of, sometimes I would do atheist orientated videos, and I took the piss out of Brock more than any other YouTuber. I think I've done more video replies to Brock Lawley than anybody else. I think I've done like, I think it's 12 or 14. It's something like that. Video replies to Brock, because he used to make the most ridiculous videos in the fucking world. They're so full of shit, man.
Hey, something I want to say just to some of what DevShell was talking about is my views have changed quite a bit over time, and there were points where I deserved the anger that you had toward me at many points, and there's probably well over 100 videos that I have deleted off my channel because I look at what the views I had back then and I cringe.
Right.
So, you know, I've changed quite a bit in time too. So, like I'm just trying to say, it was a good thing that you sometimes really gave it to me at times.
How about we chalk it up to tough love? I mean, I kind of have, I kind of have this feeling, if I am not going after you, I don't mean you personally, but you know, in general, if I'm not going after you and I know who you are, that's my failing. You know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe that's just kind of a really self-centered way to see it, but like if you say something and I know who you are, you say something that's wrong, and I don't bring it up, that's my failing.
Mm-hmm.
And I tend to go at people the way I perceive them to be going at me, which
Same.
sometimes I'm completely misreading something and I go off like half cocked. I've been known to do that. And sometimes it's deserved. And sometimes it's not. So I've been really brutal to some people who did not deserve it. Yeah. Part of my shtick while I was making videos was I was an asshole. People would come to me, they would send me messages saying, "Hey, look at this, what this guy said, go get him." And I kind of didn't do that because I'm nobody's pit bull. Sorry, but yeah, I would get it all the time. Look at this guy, look at this guy, you guys know Zamir?
Yeah, I remember Zamario.
Zamario, yeah.
Oh yeah.
He would send me stuff all the time. Go after this guy, go after this guy, go after this guy. Look what he said about gay marriage, or go after, dude,
Yeah.
relax.
Well, I mean, YouTube back in those days, ponage was much more of a sport than it is now. Nowadays, when people pwn each other, they're really trying to take their argument down in a nasty way. And it wasn't necessarily not nasty before, but I think maybe I just grew out of it, or maybe it was always nasty, and I just didn't really recognize it. I don't know.
It was
just
always nasty.
now somehow. Yeah.
I mean, Steve Shives. Steve Shives is somebody who, my opinion is, he got weird after a while. And I mean, I don't want to talk negatively about him because I don't have a dislike for him. It's more of a I just can't. You know what I mean? I'm sure he's great. Like I said, I don't have a dislike for him. It's just I just can't. I can't even sometimes. And
a lot of what went wrong on the original Breakfast Club channel was directly correlative to there was an army of people that hated Steve Shives who were really, really giving the channel. It was hard to stay above water because we did take flags back then that my Breakfast Club channel never took. Actually, that's not true. Sketchy White Dude's second video on my channel got flagged off, but it got reinstated by YouTube. But other than that, we've never had a flagging problem on this one. But you did have people trying to shut the channel down because there was a couple
in the original. We had a couple of issues. One was what was his name? Atheist Avenger is.
Yeah, something like that.
He and it was an ongoing issue. He was always constantly making intentionally inflammatory videos that would start flame wars and drama wars, and I kept behind the scenes telling him, I'm like, dude, you can talk about whatever you want, but that's kind of the whole point of the channel. But don't intentionally try to make it drama,
right?
Because then we're no longer having a conversation. Now, and I told him I'm spending all my time defending you and defending the channel. That there's no conversation going on. And eventually I had to remove him, and he was really unhappy about that, and I felt really, really bad. But it was just like I had to save the channel.
Right. That's when you realize how thankless it is when you're the moderator for the channel, because you're taking it from every direction, and it's very, 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 very. I mean, you've been very thankful just now, for example, and Brock said the same sort of stuff last week, and I really appreciate those sorts of comments. But I mean, and I think with the Breakfast Club, since I started this particular version of it in 2015, we've managed to not get involved in any YouTube dramas. I mean, Nathan has come closer than anybody to getting involved in YouTube dramas, but Nathan has a really good way of marching up to the line and shouting from it without going over it. That's exactly the motif.
It's a good talent to have.
Yeah. And you know it too, Nathan. I can see it on your face.
That was back when I was. That was back when being a YouTuber was my actual job.
Yeah, right.
So,
and I think back in the original Breakfast Club channel. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was into all of the, I was into the anti-SJW stuff, and I was also into the drama at the same time. So I knew everything that was going on, and I was like, "This is going to be the show for today. this is going to get views." And I tried to, not going to stuff that was too crazy, but I tried to get some views in there. So
Well, it worked. I mean, some of those videos that you did were the most viewed videos we had. I mean, I think the very highest viewed video last time I checked was by the Peach, and that was about incest. And I think you have the second, third, and fourth, and fifth highest videos after that, Nathan. I think that one that the Peach did on incest, I'm pretty sure last time I checked, that was the highest viewed video on the channel. That was a topic that originally by JJ Talks for the round robin when we were first doing the round robins in the very first early days of my incarnation of the Breakfast Club. There was good fun times back then. Another person we used to have in the original. I like the round robins. I think that's what we're doing right now, but we're doing it live, and I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's wrap it up, friends, and we'll maybe do it. I'll hit you guys up every weekend while there's a lockdown. If you don't want to do it, that's cool. No hard feelings. And if you do, I'm always game because I've got nothing else to do. I don't have much of a life. I barely get out of my house at the moment. So,
Yeah, I'm game.
Yep, that's
Cool.
nice.
This is great. This is
Cool.
awesome. I'm loving this.
All right. And to Phoenix and anybody else who's left in the audience, peace and joy to you. And thank you for hanging out with us. All right. And until next time, may all your
Take it
ups
easy,
and
guys.
and